Okay, so we are recording now. My apologies for starting it late. Now I see a, let's see, NY as a Sloan.
Hi, Melissa. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I'm Naomi. I'm Naomi
hi,
Yazzie Sloan. Hi, I'm sitting in for Supervisor Begay for this meeting, and I think I've been in several of your meetings before. And just to introduce myself, I'm a lifetime Coconino County resident. Originally from Tuba City, Arizona, and I did live in Flagstaff for maybe 15 years. I went to NAU, did my undergrad and my graduate studies. So I'm the community liaison for Supervisor Begay's office. Thank you.
Thanks for joining. Sorry, I didn't recognize your name there. Okay, we're getting a bit of feedback, so if everyone could go back on mute, that would be great. Here's a phone number ending in 1150.
That would be me. 266-1150.
Hi, what's your name?
I'm Kathy Waldrop. I live over here on East Copeland Lane and used to go to our monthly meetings, but was particularly interested in seeing what planning has got up their sleeves for us.
Okay, thanks for joining us. Barbara.
And then I'm Kathy. I also have with me another neighbor from down on Daniel Way, which is just off of East Copeland, Maggie Kakert.
Great, thank you. Now, Barbara?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wasn't working last time. I'm Barbara Greenlees. I live in Doney Park. I've been here a little over 5.5 years.
Thanks for joining. Let's see, Jay Sprinkle. Can you hear us? Jay Sprinkle. Okay, we can come back. We can't hear you. There's Massey is next.
Hi, I'm Janelle Massey. I've been a resident of the Fernwood neighborhood for 33 years and Flagstaff my whole life. And I am also here out of concern for the development that's been kind of talked about behind my house.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Matt and Donnie.
Hi, we're Matt and Danny. We're out in Fernwood, and we're really concerned about the development plans. So we wanted to see what's going on and what's happening.
Okay, thanks for joining. And then we've got another phone number ending in 2323.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Hi, we're Carson County Jernigan, and again, we live out off the Brandeis Way, and we're highly concerned about the development scuttlebutt that's going on. We've been out here for 31 years, concerned about that, so hello.
Okay, great. Thanks for joining. We'll clear up some of these questions tonight. And then we've got another phone number, 5358.
Yes, hi, that would be Donna Rivas. Sorry, I'm walking the dog, so it's windy. I've lived in Doney Park for 21 years, and I am the Associate Director of the Nursing Program at NAU. So I'm just concerned about what's going on in our neighborhoods.
Thanks for joining us on your walk. Did I miss anybody? Somebody else is just now joining, but is there anybody else that I've missed? We've got E.L. Main.
I'm Kelly Becker. I live on Brandeis, and I'm a very concerned homeowner.
Okay, did I miss anybody?
Did you catch my name?
Yes.
Okay.
Melissa, I'm seeing a Bruce and a Matt and another Amber.
Okay.
That other Amber is me.
Okay, yeah, I think, okay, thank you. And then is Bruce, can Bruce hear us?
There's also Pam Baldwin.
And Pam Baldwin, thank you. Pam, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, did you want to just introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Pam Baldwin. I'm a Flagstaff native. Been in the Doney Park area for about 35 plus years. And I am the owner broker of Eldon Peaks Properties here on the corner of 89 and Silver Saddle. And just trying to stay abreast of where our Doney Park plan is headed and kind of the heartbeat of the community. So thank you.
Great, thanks for joining. And there's somebody still connecting. So if you can hear us, please stop and introduce yourself. Did you see anybody else that we need to have introductions for? Jay Sprinkle, all right, can you hear us now? Okay, if we've missed anybody, please raise your hand and we can introduce you. But Brian, did you want to go ahead and get started?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay.
Melissa, in just a minute. Let's go ahead. Go ahead. Who's asking a question?
Sorry to be late. I had a double muting problem. This is Josh Sprinkle. I've been in Doney Park for about 11 years.
Thanks, Josh. Melissa, I want to ask you real quickly. We have a lot of people that are concerned about a development that I don't know anything about. I'm wondering if it would behoove us to address that quickly and let people know that we are working on the 2021 long-term plan, that we are not working on planning any developments.
Right. That's actually, I think, a very appropriate pause to take. And I do have a map that I did want to display because I think that might help answer some of the questions. And if you can hang on a second, I can just jump to that map and then we'll come back to the meeting notes. Can everybody see this all right?
No.
No. I'm on the phone, so I don't.
Oh,
I can't see
okay.
it at
Yeah,
all.
I'm sorry if you're on the phone. And this is as enlarged as I can make it right now because it's a large planning area. But this might be a map that has caught some people's attention. And then what we want to make clear is we're working on updating the 2001 Doney Park area plan. And there are goals and policies in that plan that do affect future development, but there are no specific development plans or proposals that this committee is working on. There may be some other developments that are potentially being considered, but that's not part of the work that this committee is doing, and we haven't been informed of any new major developments. This map shows in at a very high view the existing zoning. And what you can see, and I'll just talk about this very briefly, there is Forest Service land, as you all know, surrounding and within the planning area. And on this map, that Forest Service land has that kind of background hatching to it. And it's interesting to note that some of the Forest Service land actually has zoning. However, it's not available for development at this time, even though it has had zoning on it for a while, for a number of years, actually a number of decades, since even before this plan. Sorry, I'm admitting more people. At least when the 2001 area plan and before that, the zoning has been in place. So as you all probably know, in order for any type of Forest Service land to be developed, the Forest Service goes through a land exchange process. And this committee has been in touch with the Forest Service, and we have not been informed that there's anything pending, any new proposals that they have been processing. So there is no new development proposed that any of us have been informed about, and that's not been the focus of the committee. So we also haven't had any at the county level. We haven't had any applications for new subdivisions or any other developments that have been submitted within Doney Park. We've had building permits for, as you can see, you know, residential additions and things like that and new houses, but nothing major that's gone on. So just to kind of talk about that right up front, we, you know, we don't have anything more specific to add than that. And Brian, I'll send it back to you now.
Okay.
Brian,
Go ahead, Rob.
give a quick overview of what we are actually doing here, just so that everyone's clear.
Yes.
Okay.
Good
all right.
point.
So, all right. Thank you. So I will just go back then to this part, just because we do have a public comment period in a minute. So what we're doing, there's an area plan that was adopted in 2001. And that area plan contains different chapters dealing with things like land use, transportation, natural environment, water resources, and that was a 20-year plan. We are working on updating that, and that area plan has goals and policies, and basically it's a vision for the future. The county has 9 of these. And for instance, the one we did prior to this was the Belmont area plan. We're working on this one now, Kachina Village, Mountain Air. There are 9 area plans around the county. And those are intended to be a 20-year vision for the future. And ideally, they're updated every 10 years. So this one is 20 years old, and that's what our committee is working on. The committee members were appointed by Supervisors Jim Parks and Liz Archuleta. As you may know, that there are 2 supervisory districts that cover our large planning area. I'll just go back to that map. So you can see it's actually quite a large planning area. And the goals and policies are used when subdivisions and rezonings and are primarily those types of projects are submitted as applications to the county. So it also affects design of new buildings when new commercial buildings, for instance, are designed. And so there is a design review portion to this. So there are goals and policies that help to set the vision for the future. And that's what this committee has been working on for about a year. You all may have seen a survey that came out. And right now we're at the stage where we're going through the goals and policies literally one by one. And before we are ready, all these meetings are open to the public, but then there will be an open house to present everything, all this work. That's kind of it in a nutshell. There's a lot more detail that we can get into, but was there something else that we need to talk about in terms
Melissa, I was just thinking it might be beneficial for people who have never seen the 2000 area plan or 2001 area plan to go onto the county website and take a look at what it is we're exactly reviewing and you know, updating and just kind of looking at. So if people were to go, if they're not familiar with the 20-year area plan, they might just want to go to the county, find it, you know, where you have it, and
right.
kind of look at it and see exactly what we are working on. We're not working on development, like you say, we're just working on goals and policies.
That's a great idea, Evelyn. And Jess, would you mind putting in the chat the link to the Doney Park, Timberline, Fernwood area plan webpage?
I'll do it.
Okay, thanks, Jessica. So if you all look at the chat, then she'll put a link in there, which will take you directly to the web page that has a lot of information on it, including the 2001 area plan. And if you're really interested, you can go back and read all of the notes and presentations and review all of our videos.
Down here.
Since we've been on Zoom, so. Okay, Brian, does that work?
I think so.
All right.
Do we need to take time for public comments?
There you go.
Yes.
So let's take just a few minutes, and those people who are from the public, i.e. not on the committee, we'd like to hear if you have a particular concern. As stated, we don't know anything about the development that several of you have referenced. So let me open it up for about 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay, my name is Kelly Becker, and I butt up immediately to that area that looks it looks like it was zoned for 40 to 50 homes. And it's good to know that that's not under consideration. Am I correct?
Kelly, I'm not exactly sure, you know, what portion of the plan area that you're referring to, but
Oh,
there's
I'm
nothing
sorry.
that we have looked at that would have any kind of development proposal of that scale. You're correct.
Okay,
There's nothing that this committee has been reviewing that specific at all.
okay. Because I'm on Brandis and
Yeah,
I'm
no,
right next to the forest.
nope,
And I
there's,
was very concerned about that. So
right.
that's all cleared up.
What you
Then,
may have seen and what other people may have been interpreting from the map, and this is available on the planning and zoning website, is that, as I mentioned before, the Forest Service land has zoning on it. However, like we
Yeah.
just said, that's a whole different process. It doesn't mean it's available for development today.
Okay.
Melissa,
Yes.
thank you. Would it be appropriate for people to try to contact whomever is in the office for former Supervisor Archuleta to find out more information?
About,
Whatever that proposal or.
I don't think there is a
development is.
proposal.
Well, evidently there's some concern, and I'm trying to direct folks, and it's wondering if they should contact Liz Archuleta's former office.
If they know about it, sure they could, but I don't know. I mean, go ahead, Jess. Are you talking, Jess? Never mind. I thought I heard somebody.
No, I am now, Melissa. I
Sorry.
can't. Hey, Melissa, I can put my email in the my email and phone number in the chat. And if
Okay,
people
thank you.
have questions about any materials they've received or their specific property or specific parcel that's a county parcel that I can look at and see if
Okay.
if there have been any
If there's any,
requests.
that's a great
Exactly.
idea. Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
And then I see Jay Sprinkle has their hand raised.
Yes. Jay Sprinkle, please.
Yeah, hi, thanks for taking my comment. What I'm like to hear about is if there can be any room in the area plan for access to Picture Canyon from the Doney Park side of Picture Canyon. And that may or may not include connection to to the trails that are there, but I think that'd be really benefit. And then the other area I'd like to make sure or ask if it's being considered or being included in the plan is connection to the Flagstaff Foots trail system. Thank you.
Thank you. And that is actually something that this committee has talked about, so stay tuned.
Yeah, and I believe that is private property on the south side of Rain Valley Road.
I don't like it.
So that's why part of that the south access from Townsend, Winona has been closed off.
Well, there is some, okay, yeah, we can certainly look at those policies because we've got some policies that are drafted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me go to Matt and Danny, please.
Great, thank you, Brian. We were wondering, or I should say, we're more concerned, are there any requests or consideration for rezoning of the current neighborhoods and the lot size allowances in the plans?
No, there's no rezoning being proposed at all with this area plan.
The other thing that I wanted to ask about was, is there conflicts of usage in the Cinder Hills area and the adjacent in the Fernwood neighborhood? Are those concerns relevant to this committee?
Could you explain a little bit more what you're referring to?
Problems with the HOV area and the neighborhood and how they live together.
Right, so that has been an issue that the committee has discussed, and the goals and policies can address it to some degree, but you'll see as we work through them and when we get to the goals and policies that that there are some specific recommendations and communication back and forth with the Forest Service on that. So yeah, that is an issue that has come up. Does anyone
Okay,
else?
I guess my question is should comments really be addressed to this committee or should they be addressed to the Forest Service?
Both, actually.
Both. Okay. Okay.
Particularly the Forest Service. I mean, that is Forest Service. They manage the land. So this committee only, and this area plan only has a certain amount of influence that way. So really, primarily the Forest Service, but that, like I said, that's an issue that this committee has been discussing and kind of coming up with some creative ways to deal with it on the community side. But really, there's only so much the community can do. But there are some ideas out there, and you'll see those.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you, Matt and Danny. Let me go to Massey, please.
Hi, I was just going to, if I could, share my screen. We received a flyer, and I think that's what a lot of people are talking about with the proposed development, and it highlights an area between Brandis on the west side of 89 and kind of by the OHV road on the east side. I can't get my map to blow up large enough, but I think that's specifically what a lot of us have been seeing and are worried about.
Okay, Massey, and I did send you my email. If you could email it to me, and then I just put Jess McNeely's email in the chat. You could also email it to Jess. We don't have you can't share screen the way we have this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but if you could email it, that would be great.
I will do that. It says that it comes from the Doney Park, Timberline, Fernwood area plan.
Well, we would love to see it.
Okay, I'll try to figure out. I'll do that right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public?
This is
Hearing
Bernice.
none.
Excuse me, this is Bernice. I forgot to mention that I'm on the area plan committee when I talked, when I introduced myself. But do you think it would be helpful to explain how the area plan affects future zoning and zoning decisions and what the area plan committee is tasked to do?
Melissa, you want to cover that very quickly, please?
Sure. And as we mentioned before, the goals and policies are used by the decision makers, specifically the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of Supervisors when a rezoning proposal or subdivision or a conditional use permit application is submitted. So that's really when these goals and policies become, if you will, tools to basically implement the vision going forward. So I think that's what the message Bernice wanted to convey is that the goals and policies are very important that way because they do set out the roadmap for the future when those types of proposals are submitted. But as we've mentioned, we haven't had any major proposals actually submitted to our department in a while. So we're not working on any active proposals. But this would be the plan that is referenced when those come in. Does that work, Bernice?
Thank you, Melissa. I want to segue now to our review of the meeting notes from January 21st.
Yes, thank you. And I highlighted there was a note on the last page, and I wondered if anyone had a clarification of that. And I do need to actually go and do a new share so we can look at that.
Melissa, this is Liz. And hi, I'm on the committee, and there was something that I wanted to address on that last page, and it is that one about March 11th.
On March 11th.
The open house scheduled on March 11th. We didn't really come to a vote. It is on number 6. And I just want to make sure we don't put that in the notes. Yeah, we're going to have our first open house on 11 because we all kind of like, whoa, that's too soon.
Okay, I'm trying to
see. You see this one? I'm trying to, it's on number 6 and it's almost at the end next to number 7. And if you go down straight from February, you'll see March 11th. That's our first open house.
Okay, I've got, oh, I
It
see
does
right
say
there. Okay, I
temperature.
see right where you're
Yes.
saying. Yes, okay. We'll correct. Thank you for picking that up, Liz.
Mhm.
And then the very last sentence on this page, there was a comment, if everyone can see this, and we weren't 100% certain what that comment meant. If anyone who is on tonight's meeting who possibly made the comment could clarify, or any of the committee members, that would be great. And I'll change this right now.
This is Bernice. I think I may have brought attention to that when I talked about all the cultural artifacts on the state land and the protection of the state land from development.
Okay.
And its proximity to Walnut Canyon and Picture Canyon.
So this was from you, Bernice.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
It's been a while, but
Okay.
I am very concerned about the preservation of that area over there next to I-40 and towards Picture Canyon and, you know, back into
Okay.
the park and up towards Cosnino and yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll send out these revised notes and we'll just go back now to the presentation. With that then, Brian, did you want to conclude the meeting note approval?
Yes, I do want to conclude it, or unless there are any other notes or concerns from the committee members. Hearing none, let's move on to the vision statement.
Brian, I'd like to add that I too think it's too soon to have a open house on March 11th. And I don't know when spring break is, but there's probably going to be one.
Right. So Bernice, we did change that. That was a good catch on Liz's part, that the last meeting determined that there is no set date yet for the meeting.
Great, thanks.
The next meeting is March 11th, but not the open house.
Correct.
FUSD spring break is week of March 15th.
Okay, thank you.
NA2 does not have a spring break.
Okay, Brian, are we ready to move on to the vision statement?
Yes, let's move to the vision statement.
Okay, thank you.
And while Melissa is pulling that up, we'll review the vision statement and look at the concepts that need to be clarified or included if not already included. So let's try to avoid the wordsmithing, please.
Did the screen display?
Yeah.
Do you see the Envision 2040? Okay.
Yes.
Great.
When I was reading it, there was something that we had taken out, and it was, and I kind of see it as a vision that we would like to see, and that was a sentence right after where you ended. That talks about,
Evelyn, which one are you on? Because we're starting with natural resources, open space.
Oh, I'm on the general one. Okay, forget it.
Well, so this is our big vision statement, and just for everyone who's joining us, the vision that's been drafted has 4 parts to it. It's natural resources, open space and environment, community character and values, land use, growth, development and partnerships, and transportation. So the first one is natural resources, open space and environment. And what I'm displaying on this page is the vision as you all edited it last month, and then the next page shows shows the track changes. So I can just focus on unless you've got questions about the track changes, focus on this version. Brian, did you want people to just read this?
Yes, if folks will read it, and then members of the committee, please raise your hand or just start speaking if you have a concern about what we're saying.
Melissa, this is Jim Clifford.
Hey, Jim.
The people who are on the telephone cannot see the document, so it's going to need to be read.
Okay, thanks for pointing that out. Brian, would you like me to read it? Would you like to read it? Somebody else?
Would you read it? Because there's cooking going on in my kitchen, which is too close to my office.
Okay, I sure will. So this is natural resources, open space and environment. The draft vision, again, this is a 20-year vision for the planning area, says our community's priority for the future of Doney Park, Timberline, Fernwood is to maintain and protect the natural environment, resources, and open spaces that reflect our rural lifestyle and values. We value the biodiversity of our native flora and fauna and the open space that surrounds our community. Access to public lands, trails, and multi-use path systems is important to maintain our quality of life, and we encourage our partners and neighbors to establish safe and legal access easements to these amenities. So keep in mind that a vision is a broad general statement looking for the future, and the goals and policies are the tools that implement the vision. So this is meant to be a high level, broad statement to get to where you want to go. So again,
Do
what
we
do
have
you
any
want to be in the
comments?
future? Yeah.
Any comments from the committee members?
Pass.
Let's move on then, Melissa.
Okay, and again, this is the track change version, which we won't go over. The next vision category is about community character and values. And it reads, our community character is influenced by a rich cultural and historic diversity, natural environment and open space, expansive vistas, and rural lifestyle. The diversity of our community is reflected in our history and place names: Doney Park, Timberline, Fernwood, Winona, Cosnino. Our closely connected community reflects our independent lifestyle, recognizes our reliance on each other for social support, and strives to be inclusive, fair, and safe. Our community character is reflected in design standards that demonstrate our appreciation for a distinctive variety of building styles, multitude of communities, and geographic differences within our planning area. We welcome opportunities to access and introduce travelers to places and landscapes north of and beyond our communities, such as Native American nations, national parks and monuments, and geologic wonders.
Any comments from the community, from the committee?
I have a comment. I've been going over and over the we welcome opportunities to access and introduce travelers to places and landscapes north of our and beyond our community. I just keep picturing billboards with that. And
so Bernice, and just again, as we've talked, I'm sorry to interrupt, but our zoning, the zoning ordinance does not allow billboards. It does not allow off-site signage.
But this document that we're working on can influence the zoning ordinance, correct?
Yeah.
It can be
I agree
changed.
with Bernice. Yeah, it's Harriet. I agree with Bernice. And I don't know who on the committee added this bottom statement, because Bernice and I have commented on it, I think, every time we've seen it, for the exact same reason, that it becomes then like we've seen the entrance to the Grand Canyon, et cetera, and it becomes so commercialized. And I'm with Bernice on, I don't know who said that we put it in here.
And it wasn't in the survey at all. I would like to replace that statement with we value country living, open spaces, and large acreages that characterize a rural lifestyle.
So if I can respond real quickly, this statement came out of the gateway to Native American national parks and so forth. We didn't see ourselves as a gateway.
Right.
So that's where the statement came from. My suggestion to Bernice and Harriet, draft a replacement sentence and submit it to the appropriate committee that's working on it, subcommittee. Does that sound reasonable?
Well, I do, Brian, but I don't have anything to replace it with. I just don't want any attention drawn to the commercialization of the area. So mine would be to eliminate it. I don't know what Bernice would want to write, but mine would be we take pride in our beautiful scenery and hope everybody enjoys it with us.
Well,
Comment
I
from
can
other,
type the sentence I added for a replacement into the chat.
Bernice, your statement though is kind of already covered in the opening sentence of open space and expansive vistas and rural lifestyle. Aren't those in effect what you're talking about?
Rob, this is Liz. I agree with you, Rob. And Bernice, I think it is. I agree with Rob in natural resources, open space, rural lifestyle. But I agree with you too, Bernice, that it's not about, and I don't know how we say it eloquently, about lot size, that it stays. And when I talked about it with Melissa today, she goes, well, it kind of infers it with rural lifestyle and open space. But again, the survey says again and again specifically, keep our lots large. So I don't know how we say it beautifully.
And
I don't know.
remember, when you talk about lot size, that's a goal and policy.
Right. Yeah, we did say that.
Stay broader focused with this, with your vision.
Okay. Okay.
And I think, Brian was talking about how this was initially, worded as being, recognizing that your area is somewhat of a gateway to those northern places. You've got the parks and monuments, and everything that goes on up on northern Arizona and beyond into Utah. If that's not something that the community feels is part of the vision to recognize that, then I know that I think Cameron, who I don't think he's with us tonight, that was something that Cameron Watson had brought up as being
Right.
that was important to from his point of view.
May I jump in? This is Dave. I have never been particularly excited about this, even from the beginning. And I just think I don't think it's appropriate for our planning and zoning, or for our planning area plan.
Yeah.
And I would strike the whole last sentence there, and that's it.
Yeah, I think it implies, without saying, that we can't wait to be turned into a tourist mecca with all of the glitter and gloss that goes with it. We're saying the opposite. We just drove straight on through, actually.
let me play the devil's advocate for a minute. Do we have a responsibility to respond to some of the economic needs of the community centers? What do I want to call them? Where there are businesses, like the Silver Saddle store, the Mountain View Market, the
activity centers.
Activity centers. Thank you. I see that statement, and I'm not tied to this statement in any way, shape, or form, but I see the statement as saying, hey, we welcome the fact that people are coming through and spending money in our activity centers because it supports our local economy.
I'm kind of thinking that it says beyond our community. This is our area plan. It's not beyond our area plan.
Point well made.
I would like to put something in there, I don't think we can say that we value country living, open spaces and large acreages and add quietness and dark skies. I don't think we can say that enough and emphasize it, because like I said, this could be a possible way of changing the zoning to add commercial advertisements along the roadsides. Billboards.
There is a message in the chat from Matt and Danny that people are agreeing with Bernice that this possibly is not an appropriate comment or sentence rather. So just to give feedback to the committee.
Yeah, I don't think that's what we think. And as I said, I keep trying to figure out where did it come from and who, all I can see is, and I can remember the entrance to the Grand Canyon is just motels and fast food stores and filling stations. And that certainly introduces travelers and gives them relief, but is that what we want? It may be necessary, it may make money, but is that what we want for Doney Park in the next 20 years?
I'd like to make a comment on this. Perhaps it might be best to just leave that last sentence out entirely. That would simplify the draft vision. And we are talking community character and values.
Yes.
I think Harriet has made a very good point, and that perhaps this isn't necessarily one of our community values.
Right.
In terms of what it implies. I would have to agree with her and Bernice also on this. So consider just.
All right. It sounds like we want to delete the last sentence.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Brian, are we ready to move on then?
Well, I want to ask for committee members who have not commented if they have anything they want to share before striking that sentence.
I put something in the chat. This is Sailor, but yeah, I've been uncomfortable with that language since the beginning, so I'll be very happy to see it go.
Okay. Anybody else?
Brian, as I recall, the point of putting the statement in here was just recognizing our place as, you know, a gateway going both directions, basically. And it wasn't an intent to encourage any kind of development or behavior, but it just recognizing where we are and that, you know, you travel through us to get other places. And that is a part of our character. I don't read it as encouraging any kind of development or other behavior, just recognizing where and what we are. That's my thought.
Thank you, Rob, because I think you're correct. The original intent was a recognition of our physical location in terms of access to Native American nations and parks. So the question, I think, is, does this last sentence really contribute to the character and values?
It's more like
pose that as a question.
It's more like this is what we are. It's not this is our vision. So I don't think it follows under the vision.
I agree. I think we welcome opportunities to access and introduce travelers. I mean, it could be construed in different ways, and it could be used to allow billboards along the roadways as a zoning change or as a code change.
Yeah, I do remember, I don't remember the specifics, but that this statement was tied to some sort of recommendation for action at the time when we spoke about it, like what we had to gain by building on this concept. And I don't know, you know, I can't remember the real specifics of what that was, but it wasn't just a observation, as I recall.
You know, Natalie.
Just a reminder, if everyone who's in the back, if you could go on mute, we're getting some background, some feedback. Thank you.
Just really quickly, I think I could address Sigler's question on that. When we talked about gateway community versus gateway corridor, and none of those exactly pleased everybody on the committee. So I think this last sentence was an attempt to address that without any reference to gateway or gateway corridor.
I think that's a good summation there, John, about how it's changed over time.
Right. Thank you.
I
Good
agree
point,
with you,
John.
John.
Good point, John.
I'd really like to see something in our values about quiet countryside and dark skies. Our skies are very valuable.
Isn't that addressed in the natural resources?
I think it is. We can go there, but did we want to conclude this one? Hold on to that idea, Bernice. Did you want to conclude?
Do you need a motion? I'd make a motion to strike the last sentence completely if we don't really support it. So I would just suggest we remove it.
That's a motion.
Open to comment.
If that's a motion, I second it.
Can I let me hear from other committee members who have not voiced their opinion, please.
It
That speaks
seems like,
loudly.
no, it seems like the majority wants to get rid of it. So, and some of the public are also addressing it. This will not introduce billboards to our area because our planning and zoning ordinances also will not allow billboards. And our monument signs and different signage for commercial areas are very restrictive with the Planning and Zoning Commission. But if it can be stricken out of there, and it wouldn't either way for me. This is Jim Clifford, and so, but billboards are covered under the planning code.
Thank you, Jim. I'm hearing a strong opinion to delete the last sentence.
I'll give you a yes.
I would support that myself, but unless there's anybody else that wants to speak, I say we go ahead and strike the last sentence.
Good as done in my book.
All right, let's, if you will, Melissa, let's send this back to the subcommittee as well and see if they come up with anything else. But for now, let's strike the last sentence, please.
We will do, and I was just reading the other vision statements, and I think Bernice's comment about adding reference to dark skies and natural quiet would fit here, and that could go up in the first sentence. So we can do some edits, and then I'll get it back to the committee.
Okay, and you've got notes on that, Melissa?
Yes, yes, I'm writing them on paper. So, and we're also recording, but we've got the notes.
Okay, thank you. Good discussion, folks. I appreciate your input.
Okay.
Let's move on, please.
Okay, there's subtraction. So the next category, and this has been simplified substantially from last month's version. So this is land use, growth, development, and partnerships. Our area plan supports responsible land use and planned growth that maintains our rural lifestyle and character. We embrace a future that accommodates new residents while ensuring that new development is integrated into our community in a manner that respects cultural and historic resources, supports community values and aesthetics, and considers the environment and long-term viability of natural habitat and water resources. And you can see the track change version from last month. We took out a large part of that.
Comments from the committee, please.
Yeah, I'll tell you what you're looking at is the KISS principle in action here.
It's the what, John?
KISS principle.
Oh.
Keep it simple.
Yes.
I agree. I think it covers everything we wanted it to cover and appropriately without getting too wordy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is very well done. Nice work.
Mm-hmm. Can we do something? I'm concerned about welcoming too many new residents that we don't have room for. Could we put limited development in there that accommodates limited development, ensuring that new development is integrated?
I would certainly suggest not doing that because that would be a very difficult statement to support. It would be regarded as rather discriminatory in a lot of circles. I can tell you that. If I see that as a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission, then that raises a red flag right away.
I'm concerned. I think it would be a good idea to go along with our survey that people wanted to keep large lot sizes and open spaces and keep existing zoning without downsizing to smaller acreages or parts of an acre and multi-unit housing.
We get beyond the vision. I think that's been pretty adequately addressed in a number of places already.
Bernice, I think that goes in the policy and goals. The other thing I would say is that simply the amount of undeveloped land at this point is going to restrict that the amount of new residents that we can have in this region.
And
But if we, yeah.
I'm going to add one other thing. There is another area plan where something similar is addressed, and that is Oak Creek. And that is addressing density, housing density, if you will. And that is very simply because of how do you deal with everybody's septic system? You have a basis for doing that. In this case, it's very difficult to say, well, what's your basis for limiting anything like development if it is something that it can be legally done?
But in this plan, we're talking about having a minimum lot size of 1 acre. If somebody with 5 acres or 10 acres in some of these areas downsizes their lots to 1 acre, that's going to really increase density.
So Bernice, and again, we've discussed this in pretty thorough detail in the goals and policies sections, and you all have got some pretty specific recommendations for rezonings, and that's the scenario that you just mentioned. You know, any kind of quote downsizing, it's actually would have to be a rezoning in that sense, and your goals and policies are very specific in terms of directing that type of change.
And I'll tell you that when something like that comes to the Planning and Zoning Commission, that is what gets looked at very thoroughly. And you have a basis for saying it there in the goals and policies that is pretty distinct. And that's I think the appropriate place for it also.
Brian, I have a question in the chat, a question about the survey, and that there was one of our community members had not seen the survey. Did you want me to take a moment and talk about that?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so for those of you who are joining us tonight, we had sent out a survey in October. There was a postcard mailing, and then the survey was online. It was an online survey. There were hard copies available at the fire station on Cokefield Road. So we had almost 700 responses to that community survey. It was open for a month, and yeah, we realized that not everybody knew about or saw the survey. We did attempt to reach everybody. We mailed over 4,000 postcards out notifying people about the survey. So that's what Bernice is referring to. And actually the results of the survey are online on the Planning and Zoning webpage dedicated to this project.
Thank you, Melissa.
So back to this then.
I am comfortable with the way this currently reads because I think the restrictions on how many more people can move into this area are actually limited by the amount of current available land, private property, and as John and has said, it's also subject to zoning changes that are, you have to file for a change in zoning density. So I think we've got it pretty well covered.
Yeah, I want to add one more thing. Where I live out in the Cinder Hills, you can't perk for a septic tank easily. You have to be very, very careful. So there is a self-limiting, and I don't know if it needs to go in any document, but there is a self-limiting carrying load for where we live because we don't have piped water and sewer. We have water, but not sewer. So there is a self-limiting factor to what you can do with human waste in many of these areas, and that has to be respected as a reality.
Thank you. That's very true.
Couldn't people get alternative septic systems like they've done in other places? And with Cromer School, they have septics and they dump them several times a year, I guess. And couldn't that be done? Like if something, I mean, technology is always moving forward, and there may be things that people can do that we don't have today.
That's very possible, Bernice. And remember, though, the goals and policies are still the drivers to rezonings. And that's been pretty, we're not going to go over the land use growth, land use goals and policies tonight, but we will be looking at that hopefully next month. And then you can, you've looked at those with the subcommittee. And those, again, those are what apply when it comes down to a rezoning request.
Those
Right.
concerns
I think
would
they're very
be
important.
validated by the environmental quality division of the county before a split is ever made.
Yeah, and I'll make one other comment on that, rather than doing perk tests, they do a soil analysis, which is basically a fairly academic exercise as opposed to doing perk tests like they used to do. Was somewhat surprised to find out that's how it's done now, but nevertheless, that's the case. And when we get down the road, septic systems may come under a little discussion, but I don't think it's germane to the draft vision for land use growth and development at this point anyway.
Thank you. I want to recognize Jim's comment. I think you hit the nail on the head there. And thank you also, John, for your comment. So I'm going to ask Bernice if you will, once again, you bring up a valid point, Bernice. Rather than trying to re-wordsmith this now, if you want to submit in the chat or to Melissa a proposed different wording, please feel free to do so.
And Bernice, just I want you to know that although I might have disagreed with you a little bit, what you're proposing for adding to the first sentence, I'd certainly be in favor of what you had suggested, quiet and dark skies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was on the community character and values on the one.
Yeah, that's community
prior.
character and values. And Melissa said that she would address that. And
right, we'll add that in. I've got a note to add that in.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate all your comments, you guys.
Melissa, are we ready to move on?
That's up to you. I can hit the next page if you're.
Yes, I think we're ready to move on.
Okay, thank you. Again, there's the track change. And then the last category is transportation. And I'll read this. I just want to point out the yellow is something that was added today. Liz Baldwin has had a thought after she's been working on the transportation and circulation chapter. And so we've added this yellow today. This was something that was not in the draft that you received yesterday. So this reads, the transportation system in Doney Park, Timberline, Fernwood integrates and connects multimodal facilities, transit, pedestrian, bicycle, and equestrian users throughout and beyond the planning area. Our future envisions transportation corridors that are safe and accessible for wildlife, motorists, and all non-motorist users. Enhanced opportunities for transit and commuter options are possible at key locations throughout the planning area.
And let me, this is Liz, let me add, the reason why I did this, and I'm sure we're going to hear from the Forest Service, is there's great opportunity coming to connect. And the gentleman that's in the audience that raises to our attention, he wants connection to the Futz Trail. It's very possible. And connection to Timberline and Fernwood is very possible. Thank goodness to Flag Initiative and the Forest Service that I just have been working with, and they just kind of, we didn't get it presented to us. And so last week they sent me all these maps that they're proposing a proposal for funding for that connection. And it is just a so welcome gift that I wanted to make sure our transportation said, not only connection, because connectivity is so crucial out here, but it's going to connect us to the Futz Trail and it's going to connect us to other trails. So I don't think we can add enough. Connectivity is so important out here, and it's not just single car drivers. There will be options for commuters in the future, hopefully, and we have to put it in our plan because it's a vision. So.
And just remember, the reality will come down to funding.
Yes, but but all the people that we've been talking with says you have, before you get the money, you have to have it in your plan. Before you get the money, it's got to be in your vision. And so that's why I keep on saying connectivity, because I want connection to FUTS, and it's hopefully going to happen. Maybe not next year, but it's in the plans.
I think this is a very good.
John, let me interrupt real quick, please. John, whoever is on the telephone at 1150, can you mute yourself, please? Thank you. Excuse me, John.
Oh, that's okay. I think this is a very good addition, and to use the word that we see right there, it connects everything very well. And I think back to the multimodal plan that came along in 2011, and
yes,
it is worthwhile to think forward on this, because that, as funding becomes available, I think there is a change of opinion on the part of some people who were opposed to this back in 2011 that I think has perhaps changed. It's very important to be in the plan and stated this way, I think.
And there's a message in the chat, a question about bicycle trails along 89, if that would be part of the vision. And my response was that could be a trail possibility. I know there's some history on a former trail along 89.
Well, may I add to that? This is Liz again. Dave Wessel, I have addressed that with him because the Timberline Trail, part of that was addressed too, that was addressed in the multimodal in 2011, but they can't be right on 89, whoever asked that question, because you have to have a divider and it's too close to highways that large. 89 is an interstate. And so what I've heard just by talking to other people on the old transportation multimodal plan was that it's too close. And so it has to be farther back. And the plan that Patrick from the Forest Service proposes that connects FUTS, but also connects FUTS from Snowflake to Sandy Seep will be paved, but that'll be away from the highway. And then the dirt trail that's going to connect from Sandy Seep all the way to Timberline will be gravel or dirt. But they can't do it on the highway because it's too close. And then if children ride on it, there's no separation from big trucks and people on their bicycles, is what I was told by the multimodal team when I asked. And Patrick was aware of that from the Forest Service. It has to be further back from the road for that question.
Well,
thanks, Liz. We'll get into more details on that for sure.
Yeah, when we get into transportation, yeah.
Coming back to the draft vision, Liz, I like your suggested edits. I think they improve the statement. And I think that certainly when you say all non-motorist users, that would include bicyclists.
Correct.
So
I like the words the way they are right now with those additions. I had a question mark on it when I reviewed this before or last night, but I like what it says now.
Thank you.
Timberline, this is the one I was talking about. I'm just not sure if my vision would be something that we took off. So Liz, if you could go to the one where you have all the red, where it says signage, lights, and other structures provide motorist warning for key wildlife crossing areas on 89. That's always been a vision of mine. And I think, why did we strike that out?
This is Melissa. So those then were getting very specific, and these have been now put in the goals and policies.
Okay.
You know, it is in there. It's just not here because it's vision, is what I was under the understanding. That's why it got struck out. So, yeah.
Okay.
I promise it's in there.
Thank you.
Yeah, you'll see it in the goals and policies when we get to this section.
Other comments from committee members? Hearing none, let's move on to the goals and policy updates. Are we completed with visions, Melissa?
That's it for the vision, unless there are more comments on this one.
Okay.
Evelyn, did that answer your question?
Yeah, that's good. Thanks.
Okay, whoops. All right, so here we are, just an update on the review of the goals and policies. So last month you finished reviewing community character, culture, and history chapter of goals and policies. Tonight we'll look at community services, sustainability and resilience, and water resources and wastewater treatment. What we have ready to go, maybe hopefully for next month, would be land use, growth and development, natural environment, open space, parks, trails and recreation, and public safety. Transportation and circulation is currently under review. Thank you, Liz. We're almost complete with that. And we do need to schedule a review on design review guidelines, and then the implementation priorities will really be developed by the full committee. So we are almost complete with this review. We're catching right up. Any questions on this? Okay, we'll move on then. So what I'm going to do then, I'm going to exit this screen and go right into the documents that we've been looking at. So hang on a second. And we can start with sustainability. And I will enlarge this. Tell me when it's viewable. Can everybody see that?
One more, please. That's good.
How does that look?
Large.
Okay.
Good.
All right,
That's
so
good for me.
A little larger.
yeah, it's
Couple
gonna,
of more.
it's, I'll do one more and then we'll, it's
There.
gonna be big for some and not big enough for others. So I apologize for that. But now Brian worked on this chapter along with Amanda Atchison, our sustainability manager. I can go through these, Brian, unless you wanted to.
No, you please go ahead and drive the conversation at this point.
So for this section of the plan, there's one overall goal and several policies. And did everybody get a chance to look at these? And would you prefer that I read the goal and then we'll go through the policies? I can read the goal. So keep in mind, this would be a completely new section for the plan. Currently, the 2001 area plan, 20 years ago, sustainability and resilience was not a big topic of conversation as it is today. So the goal, sustainability and resilience goal, again, this would be new, integrate the principles of sustainability, community resilience, and adaptability into existing and future residential, commercial, industrial developments, as well as public and private infrastructure in Doney Park, Timberline, Fernwood. Did anyone have any comments on that?
My comment is that I really like it.
Thank you, Dave. Any other committee members?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last comment, but above where the sustainability and resilience goal, where it says drought and invasive weed for landscaping, I think we wanted drought resistant and invasive weed mitigation. Or
okay,
that
yeah,
just
this is
doesn't read right.
Yeah, well, this thank you, Bernie. This is a suggested chapter outline, so we can certainly add that in there. But on this one goal, were there any other thoughts or comments?
I've got to agree with Dave on that one. It's very simple, straightforward, and states it very succinctly. So thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Let's move on to the goals, please.
Okay, so there are.
Excuse me, policies.
Under this one goal, there were 10 policies suggested. And I can go through these one by one, Brian, would that be appropriate?
Yes.
Okay, again, I'll just go through these quickly and hope that everyone has had a chance to review them. So policy 1, encourage new and redevelopment projects to integrate energy efficient system designs such as solar, wind, and geothermal.
I had a question there. Who and how does the encouraging?
Well, the area plan would encourage, or we're setting out the idea for the community to take these principles and build those into design. So, you know, developers or homeowners, anyone who's doing a new project or a redevelopment project could look at the policies and think about that.
Well, I'm just
Melissa?
Yes.
Melissa, wouldn't it also be encouraged by the county supervisors of District 2 and 4?
Correct. And that would be when there's a rezoning or a new subdivision or a conditional use project. Remember, these are all of these policies, every one is reviewed for those types of projects.
But it is true, this is Liz, but it is true on all the other, at least I've been working on in the transportation and land use, and what was the other one? Anyway, they're getting all jumbled now. We do state more specifics. When I read this one, it's beautifully written, but I don't see specifics, and I thought that's what policies are for. But in all the other ones, they said county and another agency will cooperate, and here we're just saying it's encouraged, good, go do it. But I think people need to learn about solar. I don't live in a paneled house. I live in a trauma wall passive solar. It's very different. So I don't know. I guess that's wordsmithing, but in all the other things I've been working on, it's specific agencies should get involved. Like Doney Park Water needs to talk education about water mitigation. They specifically tested agencies. So when you read this, maybe people will be held accountable, or agencies will be held accountable to educate or to get involved. This is kind of glossy. I agree with, I don't know who said that. Who's going to do this?
And yeah, I just, there were a couple places, it's just encourage, promote. It's like, well, who's going to do all this encouraging, promoting?
That's good. I so agree. Yeah.
Yeah, and sustainability, keep in mind our sustainable, we do have a sustainable building division in the county, and it's all a voluntary program. So there's nothing required for new development to, for instance, install solar, right? I mean, that's all a voluntary effort, but we do have assistance for homeowners or property owners that want to, you know, build in a sustainable manner. So I think that's why this was written in terms of a, you know, less specific agency will do this or that, because it's still a pretty voluntary service, if you will, but this is more for the committee to talk about.
But if I'm just a person who's never lived here before and don't know anything about this area plan or something, and somebody just tells me, oh, we'll go to the area plan and read it, and then I'm saying encourage. Okay, who am I supposed to encourage? Is my neighbor supposed to?
Would it help to put in here you know, encourage new and redevelopment projects to participate in the county's sustainable building program?
That would give you, yeah.
Okay.
Kind of direction. It gives you direction and people accountability.
Exactly.
Okay, we can fix the spelling later. Okay. Anything else? Is this okay?
But it is true, Melissa. You do say this when we're doing the subcommittees, that some of these the common person probably is not going to read this area plan. It's for people in agencies and development, real estate and development, and whoever's coming in here to look at this, to ground substance to planning and zoning. Isn't that right? So it's maybe this is good we're putting in here. I just want somebody to be accountable. Like, who is going to encourage this? But the normal person is not going to go, I just moved here, I'm going to go look at the area plan. I don't know. I didn't even know this existed when I first moved here. So I see the point. Yeah, it's not supposed to give guidance.
Hey, Melissa, I've got a suggestion for you. that maybe a few words about pre-app meetings with developers when you do a subdivision. You're going to, at the staff level, take a look at things like the area plan. I know that how this has worked in Oak Creek Canyon, and it's really an effort or something that the county does that brings these things to a developer, a subdivision, or anything else other than residential right up front when you begin to talk about what they might want to do.
And you would recommend that go in policy 1?
Well, I think essentially the way it works is you already do this.
So, John, I'm wondering if we say the county development program, the county development agency will encourage new and redevelopment projects to participate in the sustainable building program.
Well, if it is not a single family residential project, such as you building a home, if it is a subdivision or anything else that is regulated like a subdivision, planned residential development, you're going to be looking at these things right up front when whoever is planning them or wants to do them walks in the door at community development.
So the agency that's primarily involved here is the community development.
Is community development, that's right.
Yeah. It is. Yeah.
Okay.
And just so
Community
you know,
development.
our sustainable building program, they go to every pre-application meeting and introduce their program to the project applicant and offer their, all of their knowledge and expertise and services.
And actually, there are some of us who actually did things like that before we ever built a single family residence.
Yeah.
But not everybody does. But a pre-app, yeah, that's where this is going to get addressed, and it is part of the procedure. If it is other than single family residential.
Melissa, is it appropriate to call upon the county development agency to do the encouraging?
You could always say,
Brian, it seems to me like this plan is in itself the encouragement. If we tried to specify in every spot who or what should be encouraging a particular behavior, I think it might get pretty difficult to manage. The intent is this plan is the encouragement, and it's used by people who are planning on doing something that isn't current, that hasn't already been built. So
couldn't agree with you more on that one, Rob.
Yeah, this is not a Bible. It's a it's a guidance. It's a guidance document. And when there are specifics as to who should do what, that's outlined way down in the weeds, not in the top level stuff.
I can hear that.
So this is when you read all these policies, it gets pretty specific. And, I understand what the comment is about this use of encourage. It might be good. We could think about, how to better, inform, policy readers about who will do the encouraging, but do we want to focus on the specifics at this point? And we can
No, you said right. You said this is vision tonight, so.
Well, let's stay, we can certainly wordsmith this to make
right.
it more specifics. And then, but this policy number 1 is really addressing energy efficient systems such as solar, wind, and geothermal.
I have a suggestion in terms of the wording. We and I've been looking at this for quite a long time. When I see encourage in an area plan, sometimes perhaps it might be better to say should be considered rather than just encourage, or encourage should be considered. Just something to think about.
Should
Melissa, I'd
That's
let
good.
you do the wordsmithing on this. You're very good at it.
Well, if you have any, we can certainly, so
But
this could
just as,
be, yeah.
yeah, just as a go forward, you know, encourage is kind of amorphous.
True.
We don't want to get it so wordy that people are going to look at this as, no way, I'm not going to follow these policies.
And we could make it more of a more active statement and take out encourage by just using the type of wording that John suggested. So we can go through and wordsmith this.
Because the individual can consider it, and it's something when you have a pre-app with a developer, yeah, this is what we're going to consider when we evaluate what you want to do.
So it's coming back to a higher level here. We've used encourage several times, and what I'm hearing is to use an active verb in terms of the statement as opposed to encourage, right?
Yeah, and there's a good reason for that, because grapple with this encourage business in formulating not just what we do at the planning and zoning commission level, but also when you start to formulate changes to the zoning ordinance also.
So Melissa, let's make a note somewhere to work on wordsmithing this to an active tense as opposed to
Some word like
passive.
promote. We promote the use of.
That's
well,
kind of
this
like,
will go back to committee and they can deal with it.
All right, you're right.
promote is kind of like encourage again, but when you see consider, if you come to planning and zoning, board of supervisors, or community development, that's like that's very active, yes, and it says this is what you want to look at, and it adds emphasis to it, I think.
Right. Okay.
Okay, I added a note there.
On number
Thank
2,
you.
this is Evelyn. What's ADEQ?
Good question. It's Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, and that should be spelled out.
Okay. So again, we'll go back and revise this, revise all the statements that say encourage or promote. Right. And that'll be the subcommittee.
Also, number 8, the subcommittee can look at the word ensure.
Okay, Evelyn, before we get there, I'd like to go one step at a time if we can.
Okay, okay.
I know. That process guy.
Okay, so number 2 then, are we ready to go on to that? Number 2 is addressing plumbing options for gray water systems to be used for landscape purposes in locations with, and this got somewhat technical because we did have David Monahan take a look at this, and he made some suggestions here that the committee had not seen previously, but so that's where the 5-foot vertical separation from groundwater came in, and then also that all systems must meet the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality gray water standards for discharge. So gray water systems are allowed for landscaping, but there are these very specific standards that they need to meet.
I think that addresses it. Any other member have a comment? Let's go on to number 3.
Okay, number 3 is regarding food security and encourage food security through community-based and local food production to minimize environmental impacts and reliance from transporting food long distances by developing and supporting a local farmers market, community and neighborhood gardens, a compost program, and incorporating edible plants such as fruit trees into all landscaping. This is a very broad statement.
It's a good one.
And I really want a farmer's market, so I love it.
Any other comments on the context and concept of the food security statement?
We'll work on the encourage part.
Right.
My only consideration would be that fruit trees usually take a lot of water. And above all this, we had already talked about trying to plant things that are drought resistant, and fruit trees are far from it. So that's just a consideration.
Evelyn, I agree with you. I think you should take it out. They are not sustainable. They're hard. And then the elk come and eat the apples anyway. Because I have to admit, I'm a bad one. I've got 3 of them, and they take a lot of water. But they were here when I moved here, and they get demolished anyway. But it's kind of contradictory.
Question back to you all though, in
Yeah.
terms of that. And that question is about food security and transportation costs. And how does that possibly outweigh the need for watering fruit trees? Just a question.
However, wouldn't it be just as easy to not say fruit trees, edible
Right.
plants?
Edible
Covers
plants.
a lot.
Right.
Okay, we can just do this.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
John, I thought you were just going to say, don't plant anything that's green.
Yeah. Hey, whatever works.
Is there anything in the policies or planning or the vision that talks about preserving topsoil with planting of pasture grasses on acreages
Ah.
that are drought resistant? I've got a 2-acre pasture that's planted in native pasture grass, and boy, it keeps the dust down great.
We may have talked about that in the natural environment, open space, parks, trails, and recreation.
I do remember something about that.
I don't know. Bernice got an excellent comment because I think that goes to sustainability.
We can put a note in here.
And dust is a real health problem out where we are, blowing from the mountain where the fires were. And the people who are down below, for whatever reason, have chosen to cut the grass and even to plow under in the spring. So we get terrible dust storms. So I carry my allergies all year because of it.
Bernice, what would the language be?
Appropriate topsoil. Didn't you say topsoil and native?
Encourage topsoil preservation by planting native vegetation, grasses, etc., on vacant land.
Encourage.
And hopefully not sunflowers or ragweed.
But you know what? Those sunflowers, the bees need them. We have 3 beehives at my house.
They're beautiful.
They like the bee plants and they like those black-eyed Susans.
Yeah. Okay, no ragweed.
Okay, no ragweed.
Okay, here's an idea then, and we can look at this.
Yeah, preserve topsoil.
Another drought tolerant vegetation.
But what, Bernice, didn't we say something about preserve topsoil? But you said not scraping off. You know how some people scrape off their top, like you said, they plow under. Does that kind of include it when you say preserve topsoil, or should you say specifics about preserve topsoil by planting native plants and other drought tolerant vegetation, native grasses?
So remember, this is sustainability and resilience. That might, and I don't have it pulled up right now, but I do think there's a policy in natural environment that addresses this.
Okay.
We can double check. Bernice, if you have that with you, you may have it right in front of you.
You know, what is it called?
Well, it's a
land
natural
use.
environment.
It's the land use. The land use one, I think.
It's also natural environment, open space, parks, trails, and recreation. That chapter.
I remember we were going through cultivation. We weren't sure if cultivation was the word to use. And then we never got back to it. So it must have been in a different area. But I remember that was a word we didn't know what to put there for cultivation. And I think we left it as cultivation, but we weren't happy with it.
Okay.
Are we getting too detailed by saying specific to topsoil, excuse me? And couldn't we say instead, preserve the natural environment? Is there?
Well, then people, I don't know, because natural environment is if you don't put a building on or something, but raw dirt isn't good either.
Yeah.
And especially once you scrape your land.
We were into dust mitigation.
Yeah.
Brian, aren't we doing wordsmithing?
Yeah, we are, and that's exactly where I was going to go.
I know, but I think these points aren't in here though. I mean, we wouldn't be.
Okay, but we got the point of preserving the topsoil.
Oh, okay.
And I think, I can go back and work with
Okay.
and others on this.
Okay.
So the concept.
Thank you, Harriet, for keeping us on track.
All right. So do you want to go on to number 5 then?
Yes.
All right. So what was number 4? Now number 5, promote economic resiliency by supporting cottage-based industries and artisans markets. And remember, cottage-based industries are permitted land uses. Those are the small home-based businesses that there are quite a lot of those in Doney Park, Timberline, Fernwood. They require conditional use permits, but it is actually provides economic diversity and a lot of opportunities for home-based occupations.
Can someone help me understand what an artisan market looks like in Doney Park?
Silver Saddle sometimes had, well, no, that was more like a swap meet, but they would have people selling different kinds of stuff.
Homemade.
Yeah.
And the Bear Man's up there. There are little white tents, and there's the Bear Man. And some people sell antiques up there. It's not even a swap meet. I mean, they have arts and crafts. I've seen it.
We're talking about in activity centers, not elsewhere. Is that?
Well, isn't Silver Saddle an activity center?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. We're talking.
Yeah, they're there. Right, they're there. Those white tents, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's an artisan market for sure. They have all kinds of different local small business kind of things.
So we're
promoting. And then if somebody wanted to do a separate event, like a weekend art fair, for instance, then that would require a temporary use permit from community development.
Or the gem show.
Oh, right, the gem show. Well, there has been a rock show up there because I went to it.
Yeah, got to get our rocks. We don't have enough.
No, we don't.
Okay.
You can never have enough.
So let's come back to our plan, please.
Okay, so number 6.
Is there any way we can add family-oriented? I'm concerned about having marijuana festivals, which are probably coming down the road.
What is your concern?
My concern is that they're going to infiltrate neighborhoods and kids are going to be going to these things. And I've been to them in Colorado and California, and I don't want to see that coming here.
Any kind of special event like that would require a use permit, a temporary use permit from community development.
Mm-hmm. Would they decline something like that? Being that it's recreational marijuana is legal in our state now? Without a lawsuit, they've got lots of lawyer money.
Well, why would they try to ban illegal activity?
If it falls under the zoning ordinance and meets the requirements for a temporary use, then we would issue a permit.
How is this any different than, say, Oktoberfest, like downtown? Like we could beer festivals, and I'm sober, but I still think that's the same thing.
But there is a lot of smoke generated, and it's an attractive nuisance for kids. And all these states that have legalized marijuana have had a huge uptick in youth using marijuana. I don't think the youth in Doney Park need this, or Timberline or Fernwood.
I don't know that the area plan can appropriately address that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, Melissa.
Gonna have to rely on the parents for that one.
We
Oh,
cannot.
Get that.
Isn't that kind of what Doney Park is known for, or have I been mistaken for the last 30 years?
Jim Clifford, were you trying to share something?
You're trying to tell people what they can and cannot do on their property, and
Yeah.
that is illegal.
Oh, I'm talking about public ones on public, like at the park by Cromer School.
They need a permit from the county to do that, and that's on a event by event basis. And if it's legal in the state of Arizona to have something like that, they can't tell them no.
I'm going to chime
Because,
in
because the public voted on it and the public passed it.
Yeah, Jim Clifford is absolutely right about this. If it's a legal activity, which we have now, then you can't deny them the permit based on what it is.
I
Simply
agree.
I don't like it.
I agree with Jim and John.
Yeah, there's case law on this. It's the same thing as saying, well, they want to have a tattoo parlor, and planning and zoning says, no, you can't, just because we think it may be, say, immoral to have a tattoo. Well, that won't fly.
Bernice, this is Liz, were you trying to clean up this statement to make it more family friendly by just adding supporting family based, cottage based, with the family word? Because it's like, we refer back to this, oh, it's family artisan markets. Oh, it's family industries. Because I don't think they really think the beer bus downtown is really a family event. I've never even advertised it that way. They advertise beer blast or beer tasting. They never say, bring your kids down. So is that what you want to do? Put in something like that?
Family friendly, yes.
Family friendly? Okay.
Friendly activities.
Yeah, there's a part of me that has kind of mixed emotions on that, though I'm not going to completely and totally fight against that. But the word family sometimes gets thrown around to equate to like moral, and sometimes, I mean, from somebody who's had, the words family values used against me enough times, sometimes I kind of twitch a little bit when we start talking about family friendly stuff.
Okay. But it is true, those beer bashes, you never hear family friendly fun weekend.
So this policy is specifically talking about cottage-based industry, which is a very specific conditional use that is conducted on an individual's property, and it is a small business basically that is done, like the bear carving person. An artisan market is pretty specific too. So, did you want to expand the statement to include events?
Perhaps it would be worthwhile considering taking out and artisans markets and addressing it elsewhere. That's pretty specific and a pretty narrow segment.
I agree with John. That's a really great idea. That kind of simplifies.
I think that's a good idea too.
Yeah.
Take out these last three words.
Yeah, because then you're endorsing a specific type of activity.
Okay. All right. Okay, so should we move on then to the next?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, the next one is encourage property owners to install rainwater harvesting systems for landscape irrigation.
Okay. Let's move on.
Okay, and the next one is encourage the community to use neighborhood co-ops that support neighborhood involvement and resilience, specifically focused on wildfire mitigation, preparedness, and for the bulk purchase of solar and wind energy. So this is the idea of using neighborhood co-ops. It's kind of a specific mechanism that the county really can't facilitate, but neighborhoods can certainly jump on that concept.
Brian, this is a question because you wrote this, right, Brian?
Go ahead, sorry.
Well, I think that one came from Amanda, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. So on my understanding, it's encouraging neighbors to get together to purchase solar panels for the houses in the field, and then wind energy, one wind per, I mean, I don't understand that. Can you get a wind generator and one can supply 3 houses? I'm not understanding this. And then the fire mitigation, you go to and help each other trim your trees? I'm not understanding the statement.
So neighborhood co-ops, as I understand it, there are different groups out there that are promoting this now. They're private groups that are promoting, for instance, communities to get together and pool resources in order to get a bulk rate, for instance, on solar panels. And the same could be done for wildfire mitigation. And you know, we have heard a bit from the Summit Fire District that there is some grant money available. So this policy is, now that we're rereading it, it does seem to cover possibly too much.
Yeah, I think
and
it
it's
covers,
probably 2 policies.
I think it's 2 policies because I think wildfire mitigation or preparedness is different from purchasing solar and wind.
Right.
I do want to make a comment that this, I believe, is coming from Amanda's knowledge of the city, Flagstaff, of trying to set up co-ops there so that, you know, like 4 or 5 home builders could come together and make a larger purchase of solar panels to decrease their cost.
Right.
And
It
save
wasn't
money.
the city, it was a private company who the city was helping promote, you know, basically get the word out to people.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I believe it was called Sun, S-U-N.
It's something, yeah, it is something
Yeah.
like that. That's right.
Yeah, it's in the Flag Business News for February.
So
There's an article about it. It's really good.
Yeah, the city's sustainability program was promoting that.
So I think that that's going to need to be.
Okay, so we need to
broken
make
into
this
2
2 policies.
Yeah.
Yep.
Brian, can I answer one of the questions that was brought up there?
Sure.
About when you put in a solar system, you cannot split that solar system to other properties other than the one that it is on, because a lot of the solar systems that are going in, and including the one that's on my house, actually puts the power right back into the grid.
Yes.
And I can't take that to another person's house. It goes into the grid. So that's how they operate. Some solar systems go to a battery bank, and then that battery bank is what feeds the power to the house. But you cannot split one system between multiple houses.
Thank you, because that's what I didn't understand. I have some panels and I can't do that.
And if I could jump in here, that is what that
Yeah.
co-op idea is trying to promote.
Right.
And it's a new concept. I think Bernice was reading an article, but it's a whole new program that's just been recently introduced into the area. So that's where that came from. It was
Okay.
literally hot off the press, I think.
So they're making new systems that you can plug into somebody else's solar panel?
Well, no. I think what it is, people join together and
to buy the bulk. Okay.
Right. And I don't
Okay.
know if it all may be just as exactly as Jim is suggesting, that it still goes back into the grid, but you join with your neighbors, and I believe then get a reduced rate for doing the installation.
Okay.
But
Thank
we're not
you.
going to hash out those details here. That's
Right.
something,
Okay.
if you want more information, we can get that for you. On the
No, I just wanted to be clear in the policy. I don't need information. I'm pretty solar at my house.
Okay. All right. So number 7 needs to actually be 2 policies, but it sounds like overall these are good ideas to incorporate into the sustainability and resilience chapter.
Okay, let's go on to number 8.
Okay. And number 8, promote the design and redesign of new and existing infrastructure such as stormwater management facilities, drainage basins, swales, berms, etc., for dual purposes such as rain gardens, parks, and to restore and protect healthy soils. So this is really an engineering design idea for, using drainage basins, for instance,
I
not
know
just for
80
drainage,
acres
but
we
for
could
rain
do that
gardens.
with.
Pardon me?
I know of 80 acres that would look good in that.
Wonder where that would be, Rob.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you that's a good one in my book because I've got all of that on my property.
So, and I think part of this is how can we use the catchment, what shall I say, flood catchment basins to help, regional use of that water for other plants and so forth, other neighbors.
Yeah, and that is if you have a detention basin on your property like I do, then that water that accumulates, instead of running off and through the neighbor's property, which would be Evelyn's property, it becomes part of the groundwater.
Right. Let me interject, whoever is on the phone at 0621. Can you mute yourself, please?
Oh, Vanessa Hemmer.
Thank you.
Okay, so should we move on?
Yes.
Okay, 9, ensure the equitable distribution of widely available and affordable broadband internet and satellite service. And here's a big note to look into the status of the county's pursuit into satellite internet. I haven't had a chance. I know that there is a bigger county effort to investigate this, and I need to get with the department. I don't know that it's gotten very far along the way, but I think that there is a push for that. If everyone can make sure you're muted, that would be helpful.
Just give Elon Musk a couple.
I'm sorry?
Let's move on.
Okay. Number 10, and then we're almost done. Number 10, support the transition of privately owned gas vehicles to electric vehicles by encouraging the installation of EV electric vehicle charging stations at existing gas and service stations, commercial and industrial developments. These facilities should rely as much as possible on environmentally safe renewable energy sources. Any thoughts?
I think it's a great, well written, very good.
Yes, just leave that there, and that is definitely something you'd look at, say, with a commercial development, industrial development, something that comes to the County Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of Supervisors for approval.
Okay.
The word exiting should be existing gas.
Thank you. All right, thank you. And then number 11, support the use of drought-tolerant plants and encourage invasive weed control education for private landowners through education programs and collaboration. And these, this concept, I believe, is repeated then in the natural environment chapter, but this is sustainability and resilience.
Yes, I believe you're correct on that, Melissa.
So any other concepts that were not captured here?
One quick thought. I know our electric vehicle charging stations are just about ready to go live now, and they were done in cooperation with APS.
Oh.
Should we maybe somehow encourage cooperative efforts to leverage those kinds of things? APS is doing this as a result of a voter mandate. So maybe identifying that somewhere in here that such a thing exists and that should be encouraged would be a good idea.
Okay.
Just a thought. I'd like other people's opinions.
I think that's a very good suggestion from Rob.
I do too. I agree that we should support, you know, the emerging technology. And if he's doing that, more power to you, Rob.
I like the idea of having new entrepreneurs come into the business. APS has a lot of business in Arizona, and I'd like to see some new blood in the show. So that there's competition.
The infrastructure required for that is what creates the challenges that I think has prevented it. But as we go to a more distributed grid, that might happen.
Mm-hmm.
Could you expand on that concept, Bernice?
I guess it's
Is it
I'm having
about
a hard time right now. About having other vendors participate in the electrical distribution stations, you know, so that they don't necessarily have to go through APS?
Well, I'm going to tell you one thing about that. You will have to get the legislature to enable that and to go along with it.
They won't.
Well, it isn't my intention to throw cold water on your idea, but I know what the reality of that is.
Yeah.
What if we said energy providers?
Yeah.
That's a better way of doing it.
Yeah, that would work. But encouraging it, yeah, whatever you could do to improve the situation would be great.
There you go. That sounds good. I'm just wishful thinking.
Okay, well, that's so maybe just being more general, we'll open that up.
Yep.
I noticed that article in the Flagstaff Business News. It was a sizable article. It didn't mention APS once on the solar initiatives.
Okay, well, good job, you guys. Any other thoughts on this? No?
Nope, good.
Okay, should we go on to the next? We're
Yeah.
at 7:06, so we're making good progress tonight. Let me
Let's
do
move
this.
on, please.
All right, let me go on now to let me do this. I need to find my document. Hold on a second. Water resources and wastewater treatment or community services? Which one would you rather look at next? Brian, you choose.
What if we do water resources?
Okay.
Okay. Well, I've got a problem here.
And I'm going to do the, is it large enough? We need to do larger. How's that? Did that display?
Yes, it does display.
Okay, is that large enough?
I believe so.
If you don't need your comments on, Melissa, it would be easier to read.
There we go. Okay, so under water resources and wastewater treatment, there are 3 water service goals, and then it does jump down to a separate section for wastewater treatment. And I can read these if you'd like, Brian.
Please do.
Okay, so 3 water service goals. 1, high quality water is available to all residents of the planning area. Number 2, groundwater resources are protected from contamination and depletion. And number 3, water conservation is practiced by residents and businesses. So these are the 3 goals. And then under domestic and commercial water service policies. But I'm going to stop here. Were there any members of the subcommittee who wanted to address this first?
I like the goals.
Thank you. Anybody else with comments on the goals?
Yes,
Go ahead, Jim.
high quality water is not available to all residents of the planning area. We have residents in our planning area that still need to haul water. So what is this availability? High quality water is available. A lot of places it's not available by Doney Park. They have to haul it in. So kind of playing devil's advocate here.
Okay, why not just say high quality water should be available? Because that covers what Jim just talked about here, I think. As a goal, yes, it's a laudable goal, of course, but Jim has spoken to the reality of the situation.
Yes, those who are hauling water have to get their water, I assume, from either Doney Park Water or the city of Flagstaff.
Well, Doney Park Water, they don't have a standpipe currently, I believe.
That's true. You are correct.
So
So
it
is your-
sounds like Jim's really talking about the delivery method, not the availability
Yeah, it
of
is.
quality water.
Couldn't
And
it
we
still
can't
be a
compare.
goal? Even though it's not a reality right now, couldn't it still be a goal?
It
No.
can be.
Whether they
If-
get it from a standpipe or piping into their homes?
If I don't have a water line in front of my house, how am I going to pipe it into my house?
Well, then you'll have to haul water and that would still have available water.
Remember,
What
this is a
about-
goal, so
But-
Yeah, it's a goal.
What if you were to say potable as opposed to high quality?
well, for
Yeah.
people that are hauling water, is it still a goal that they would have access to high quality water?
Mhm.
Whether or not it comes from Doney Park Water or somewhere else?
Well, if you're selling water for hauling, it has to be ADEQ approved, I believe. We've gone through this with conditional use permit.
Yep,
But
it does.
high quality, I think, is again kind of open to interpretation. What may be high quality water to you may not necessarily be that to me. Looking at it from a scientific standpoint.
Can we put potable water is available to all residents of the planning area?
Jim's got a good suggestion with that, I think. Because very simply put, some people may regard water with a high mineral content as not being high quality at all. And you know what that's like here. If you live in the Midwest or say Florida, well, you may not regard it as high quality, but it will certainly meet standards for potability.
And how do we define potable water?
In other words,
Versus-
fit for human consumption.
Yeah, that's defined by ADEQ.
Right. But it doesn't necessarily address quality until you start looking at things like you get in the analysis that say Doney Park provides us at least a minimum of yearly. So I think potable water is way to do it.
I do have a message in the chat that having high quality water is a good goal and it's something that should be strived for even for people that currently don't have pipe. So just a comment was made.
Yeah, it's important to note that Doney Park does not have a standpipe. And before Flagstaff has to pay to do Red Gap, they may very well want to turn off their standpipes. So having a quality water source is going to be very important.
Having a water source period is going to be very important.
Well, that's true.
Yes.
I think that if we said high quality water, then that's subject to a lot of different definitions, and having one specific definition like potable water really is what's needed.
I think when Dave is correct, when you say potable water, it is going to have to meet ADEQ standards for that. So high quality, as I said, it's going to be different things to different people.
Well, I think that,
and I'm not going to regard it as high quality water. Is you can look at it that way.
are we comfortable with potable water is available to all residents of the planning area?
Could we say good quality potable water?
You don't want to put good in there.
No.
You don't want to put good quality. You just want to have potable water.
Just potable.
Yeah.
You got to remember, Doney Park water does not go through a water treatment plant to do anything to it. And they have signage on all of their wells where ADEQ comes in and tests their wells and give them the approval to continue to use their wells in their tanks.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no type of water treatment that is done with it. It meets the minimum or higher standards for state ADEQ, which is potable water. And even if you look at the water trucks that are hauling, the commercial haulers, they have an ADEQ number on them where they are inspected by ADEQ to meet their standard qualifications to be able to haul water.
Good comments, Jim. Thank you.
I think Jim just summed it up for us.
Yep.
Let's move on, please.
Okay, so we went through the 3 goals, and just as an FYI, Doney Park Water Company was part of the review of these goals and policies. So they've had their input on this with the subcommittee work.
Melissa, just as a question, should they be acknowledged as having contributed in the editing of these goals?
In the
editing of the policies.
Do you mean in the plan itself, or?
Yes.
Definitely, we will add them in the acknowledgement section.
Okay.
So, yeah, there's going to be a long list of acknowledgements for this plan effort. So, and they will definitely be part of it. Thank you. Okay, so these are now categorized as domestic and commercial water service policies. Number 1, ongoing mutual cooperation and coordination between the county and Doney Park Water should continue to ensure that development in the area is in conformance with current policy of both parties. And that was an existing policy that's been updated. So I'll turn off the track changes, but just to mention that. So what we do at the county level, we do communicate with Doney Park Water for new major developments like subdivisions and rezonings. They're on our notification list for those. So they get to see what developments may be coming in and then, do their analysis based on whether or not they can provide water to that development. And that's what this is referring to. Comments or questions?
Is requirements about water service requirements, is that, and should we also include and availability, or? So,
where are you
Where
reading
are you?
that? Where are you reading that, Dave?
Number 2 at the end.
Oh, okay. We were on number 1 still, but if there are
Right.
no comments on 1, we can jump to 2.
Oh, I thought we were on 2.
Let's go to 2.
Okay, so 2, the county should communicate with Doney Park Water to inform Doney Park Water about new land division and new single-family residential permits, so that property owners are informed about water service requirements. And that was a topic of conversation between Doney Park Water and the subcommittee, because they have experienced situations where people buy a vacant parcel and then go to put water service on, and either the water lines don't go that far or they're surprised at the cost of a meter. So this was a request on the part of Doney Park Water to better inform people at the beginning what it will take to bring water to the property. Does anyone else want to chime in on that?
That was going to be my comment: service requirements and availability, because if they don't have a water line out there, that means it's not available.
Okay.
What about ADUs when people add an additional dwelling unit on their property? That is subject to a $2,000 fee from Doney Park Water, and they need to know about it.
Would that be covered? So this would say also and new single family. So the idea here was, when there's a new building permit, for instance, and that would be an ADU as well.
So that would be a building permit to add an ADU to an existing residential property?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I do need to discuss this with our building department to, brainstorm how to do this. We don't necessarily have, that's a administrative change we would have to. So I need to get back with our building official on this, but it does seem like a good communication, a good policy to communicate.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry for talking over you there, Melissa.
Go ahead.
The county, you have the county should communicate, and Doney Park Water is asking for this. Is that correct? Shouldn't that say the county will communicate with Doney Park Water to inform them of new land divisions and buildings? Sorry, my granddaughter's here and crying.
That's okay. Well, we could, and then, remember, we try to, at the policy level, leave the language in the, stay away from the idea that we shall do this. But I think that in this case, we can certainly, I need to communicate with our building division to see if this is something that we can even realistically implement.
Okay.
But I can
Yeah,
put
it was,
here.
yeah, it was just, if Doney Park Water is asking for the county to do something, and the county has right to say yes or no. So that's where that will came in when I would read it.
I will I'm making notes over here. We can follow up on that. Because number 3 does say Doney Park Water will provide information on water quality and supply to the county regarding long-term water supplies. And the USGS could provide additional information and analysis. Again, this was something that Doney Park Water.
Can you say the county has been asked to communicate?
I'm just rereading this. So we edited one of the existing policies to basically put it back to the water company. Because again, this is something that is communicated from the water company to the county during pre-application meetings. And then they rely on USGS for that analysis and information.
I think this is one of those rare instances where you could say will in a policy document like this.
Because, yeah, they will and they do. Anything else on this? We can go to number 4. So number
Let
4.
me go back to number 3 real quickly. I'm going to ask, Doney Park Water will continue to provide, because they are currently doing it, right?
Right. Good point.
Sorry, not meaning to wordsmith there,
That's
but
right.
okay. Continue development and implement.
Well, one thing, they are legally required to provide water quality data at a minimum, I believe, of once a year.
I think that's true, John, but I don't see that it affects what we're saying here.
And again, supply to the county, I don't know, we may be on a little bit of thin ice here because we're talking about groundwater. And that's one thing that when we get to the Planning and Zoning Commission level and Board of Supervisors cannot be considered. There's two, well, case law that has precluded the county from doing that for quite some time.
But we do look at for new subdivisions about a water supply, and I think so. I just added in for new subdivisions.
Yeah, like Johnson Ranch, and what we did with that was, is the water available to supply a subdivision like this? And that was a request to Doney Park and also by the developer eventually. That you can do.
So does that update address the issue there? I just added.
I believe it does.
For new
I think
subdivisions.
so, yes.
Okay.
So John, let me just share with you, former Supervisor Art Babbitt is working to try to get a bill through the legislature that allows the county to have more control over groundwater. And this is something that's it came up in 2019 and it's coming back around at some point.
Hey, can I donate to his lobbying effort?
Yes, you may.
Sorely needed.
Okay, shall we move on with those updates?
Yes.
So number 4 reads, the county and Doney Park Water should continue to develop and implement specific water conservation policies. For example, xeriscaping, low flow toilets, etc. Doney Park Water should provide education for residents, and there's some wordsmithing issues here, should provide education for residents regarding implementation of such policies, I think is what that should say. Because of the limited water and infrastructure resources of Doney Park Water, the following water conservation measures should be supported. And I can read those. A, commercial and industrial development should be limited to low volume water users. B, continued use of water saving plumbing fixtures should be required for all commercial and industrial development. C, the use of drought resistant and or low water using plants should be required for landscaping for all commercial and industrial development requiring county approval. D, the use of drought resistant and or low water using plants for landscaping for single family dwellings should be encouraged. Remember, we don't approve landscaping plans for single family dwellings. And E, the use of water saving plumbing fixtures in single family dwellings should continue to be required.
Question on that one. This is Evelyn. Is that something that is already in planning and zoning?
It's not in planning and zoning. It would be part of the building division review during a building permit.
Yeah, that's definitely in the building code.
It's in the building code.
Required, yes, just like Rob said.
So do we still need it here?
Well, certainly lends support to that.
Yep. Well, I'll tell you what, if you go beyond what's currently in the code, you're going to be operating your toilet on water vapor.
So should
Do
we
we need to
continue
make,
down?
Can you go up, Melissa?
Sure. To 4?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I
No worries.
got a couple other things going on here in my house. I'm trying to read and take care of something else here. Okay, the use of drought resistant and low water usage plants should be required for landscape for all commercial and industrial development regarding county approval. Isn't that part of the DRO?
It's part of the DRO and all. Yes, it's part. Well, it's more specifically part of our landscape ordinance.
Right.
So that does support that.
That is already part of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Got it.
Sorry, I just need to reread that.
Okay.
Okay. I have a question real quick on number 4 where he just addressed. In the parentheses, it said, for example, xeriscaping and low flow toilets. Maybe I missed the conversation. I did text.
Liz, you're cutting out.
The low flow toilets, aren't they a standard now? Wouldn't it be better to do new ideas like we're saying low flow shower heads, low flow washing machines, things like that? Because specific water conservation, hasn't that been low flow toilets been in standards for, I don't even think you can get a high toilet flow anymore, can you?
Not in the United States.
Right, so
maybe,
did I miss that? Like, go ahead.
Liz, I think you're saying low flow apparatuses or.
Yes, appliances like washers or dishwashers, or because low flow toilets, everybody does that. It just looks like I don't know, we don't know our stuff or something.
Say
Appliances?
Appliances would work extremely well. It would cover all the bases here.
Yeah.
There we go. How's that look?
Been in the building code for a long time.
Right.
Good catch.
I like that.
Shower heads, all of that.
Yes. I just got a new flow washing machine. It is unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
So low flow appliances.
Yes, perfect. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
You might want to say low water flow.
Okay.
I'm sorry. That's what you get for having an old engineer on this committee here.
Thank you.
If you've put appliances, do you have to have et cetera?
Well, this is for example, but
Evelyn's right.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point, Ellen.
No, I would say yes. You need to have your et cetera.
Oh, come on.
Because, no,
Yeah.
if I look at a low flow water appliance, I'm going to look at a dishwasher and a washing machine. I'm not going to look at, I don't consider a toilet an appliance. Toilet is a luxury.
I agree with you, Jim.
And
what if we say
fixtures.
low water flow
There you
appliances
go.
and fixtures?
There you go.
Fixtures, you can take the et cetera out then.
And take the et cetera out.
Okay. Okay, so we had gone down to F, the sub policy F.
Melissa, let me ask a generic question. Where some of these are repetitive of code, does it help to include a reference to the code or to other county regulations?
Do you mean a specific, referring to a specific code section?
Well, I was thinking more as supported by or as detailed in county code or something like that. Or is that just too simple, too down in the weeds?
Yeah, if you do that, that would work. The one thing you want to avoid is a specific part of the code, because that may change with a future update before the area plan expires or needs to be redone.
Thinking about my comment, I think maybe this could go, as a generic statement somewhere earlier in the entire document.
In the text.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's where we can do the cross reference.
Okay.
Not in the policy.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so F, the county should continue to work with Doney Park Water in a public awareness program to educate property owners within the planning area about the problems peculiar to the area and individual conservation measures that can be practiced. This policy should be directed with special emphasis toward new residents prior to construction. So this is really encouraging Doney Park Water to conduct a public awareness program about concerns with water supply and conservation.
I think we can come back and wordsmith that a bit.
Yeah. Oops, sorry. It's an existing policy,
Right.
so we didn't really do much to change it.
Maybe just make a note to revisit.
Okay. And then number G, the use of treated gray water is encouraged wherever possible for both residential and commercial irrigation and for commercial industrial purposes with require cross-connection mitigation and backflow prevention.
And does current code support that right now?
David Monahan did review this, and these are his edits.
Okay.
David Monahan is the
he's our engineer for environmental quality.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And so wastewater was taken out, so it's gray water is encouraged. And it's got to have, it has to have require cross-connection mitigation and backflow prevention.
And that came from Doney Park Water Directive.
Mm-hmm. And then number H, the county should continue to create and modify policies that facilitate the implementation of environmentally friendly rainwater harvesting systems that support human and natural environments. It's a pretty generic policy. And so these were sub-policies under that broader policy about water conservation. And there's a few numbering issues, but we'll fix those later. And then what would be number 5, policy 5, the fair share cost of any new water line extensions, upgrades, water storage, or new wells, if necessary to serve new development, should be borne by the developer.
Where did that come from? Is that something in the existing plan or is that something new?
It's existing. And this is pretty typical, you know, if there's a new, for instance, subdivision and they want to bring the water line down to serve the new lots, then the developer would normally bear that burden versus Doney Park Water, for instance. Should we go on to 7?
Yes, please.
So Doney Park Water will work with local fire departments to identify areas with insufficient fire hydrants. The fire departments will advise and assist citizens regarding new hydrant installation.
The problem isn't the hydrant, the problem is the water line.
Yeah. Or the infrastructure to support those. And then I guess as a part of a policy document, that should be a should. Would require a change in the subdivision ordinance and or the zoning ordinance to make it a will.
Now, I think this was written or at least co-written with the director of Doney Park Water. And
he reviewed this and it was changed from the county to Doney Park Water specifically.
Yes, that's true.
But stating a requirement for them by saying will would be a little, I think that is contrary to policies in the tariff that they operate under from the Corporation Commission. That's where you'd have to require something like that, not here.
Okay,
So
I
should is
updated that
appropriate.
there.
And the fire chief, when he was talking to us, he talked not just about hydrants, but the fact that hydrants oftentimes have insufficient flow to them. So it isn't a function of how many hydrants there are. It's adequate firefighting water supply is what we should be addressing here.
Or infrastructure.
Yep, that's right.
How does that read?
I like it.
Regarding, well, new hydrant or infrastructure upgrades, I think because we're referring back to hydrants again, and it's more than that. So the second sentence or the last sentence there needs to be also changed to reflect infrastructure versus just hydrants.
Oh.
Works for me.
Okay. Moving on then to wastewater treatment goal. There's one goal here. Wastewater systems protect and improve water quality. And then just a note, so this is how the current policy or goal looks, protect and improve water quality. And this was specifically revised to address wastewater systems. So wastewater systems protect and improve water quality. And then just a note in terms of organization that in the 2001 plan, wastewater policies were under the natural environment section, and we're suggesting that these be moved to their own chapter, water resources and wastewater goals and wastewater treatment. Any thoughts on, there's one goal here regarding wastewater systems. And then under this, just these three policies. So wastewater treatment policy 1, all wastewater systems are maintained on a regular schedule to ensure the system functions properly to protect the environment and public health. Information regarding system maintenance is readily available to existing and new homeowners. Property owners understand that they are responsible for the operation and maintenance of the on-site wastewater system.
Okay, this is Evelyn. Once again, not knowing anything, where is it readily available?
This would be coming ideally from our environmental quality division, and it is available today to anyone that needs to find it.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure where to find it.
Yeah, and so this was all moved, and let me just take a look here. Yeah, David had edited this, so yeah, our environmental quality division has a lot of information there. They're really good at explaining these, and then also I know that a lot of the service providers as well as installers have a lot of information about these systems.
Okay.
Melissa, Evelyn brings up a good point here. All of us are on septic systems, and none of us have an owner's manual for septic systems. And there probably should be such a thing, because especially if you've never had one before, they are a unique appliance in your home, and have maintenance requirements, and a lot of information could be provided that I don't think currently is, and could, as a result, improve water quality. There are probably people putting things down drains that shouldn't be put down drains. That kind of stuff. So I don't know how we address that in here.
Right.
I think that's an important issue in the big picture.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I know David specifically suggested this last sentence be added, that property owners understand that they're responsible for the operation and maintenance of their on-site system. Providing this, the second sentence, providing the information regarding maintenance, that's a whole nother task.
What about
And
information regarding the systems is available from the department, which agency?
right, and I'll need to get with David. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know exactly what is available, but I will find out.
Okay.
And let me just
Since
make a
it's so
note.
readily available, it should be easy to find.
You guys want a septic system owner's manual.
I think that'd be a great idea, but it's not something we can do with this document.
I can assure you that the information is out there. Just about every university extension program throughout the country has that available online. Believe me, I've been down this road before.
That's likely true, but I don't think anybody's going to go to it unless they're given a reference.
Yeah,
Well,
there's a lot of people that don't know what they don't know.
If you're like one of my neighbors and had their system pumped on a regular basis, it took about 3 or 4 times for them to do a little bit of that research and learn what not to put down the drain.
Google is your friend on this.
You bet it is.
Well, here's a note to check with environmental quality about, if we can get more specific here about where that owner's manual exists, if it does exist. So I'll follow up on that.
Yeah, you shouldn't have too much trouble finding sufficient data. I know that some pamphlets in some states have been published to detail exactly that.
And you're right, there probably is a lot, but we can maybe be more specifically as to where to find it. Thanks for that comment. Should we look at number 2? Brian, we're going to move on to number 2 now.
Yes.
Okay, so number 2, the County Health and Human Services Department, Environmental Health Services, and the Department of Community Development, Environmental Quality Division should continue to provide written comments on potential environmental impacts during consideration of new development. And this is referring to our pre-application process. And I think that actually I would suggest adding to this during consideration of new developments to the applicants. Or to the property owner, or to the, well, maybe it's actually fine.
Yeah, not to the applicants. It needs to be
No.
provided to the organization that's considering their approval.
So what happens during pre-application? All of these departments provide written comments on the proposed development, and it usually does go back to the applicant. So this is a pretty broad policy statement, but it seems to encompass a lot of different environmental quality issues in terms of wastewater. And David did help to modify this. And then number 3, and this would be the last policy on this section, the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality should be requested to conduct a regional study of the impacts of individual wastewater systems on water quality. David said that he would like to see this.
My question is the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality actually going to do it?
Well, and that's a good question. And so this says should be requested to conduct a regional study.
Why?
Well, you're testing your wastewater to see how it's migrating through the soils, potentially down to the aquifer.
And this is an existing policy that was modified. So it does, it does encourage ADEQ to look at overall what's happening with the wastewater systems potentially impacting groundwater.
So the question is after 20 years of requesting that, have they done it yet?
Not that I know of. Nope.
Is there any reason to believe they would?
Well, it could be a policy to leave in there in case that comes about.
Well,
So who's doing the
requesting?
Dave, good point.
I didn't hear that.
Well, who's supposed to be doing the requesting?
Well, you as a citizen ought to be able to do that, and you should be able to encourage the Board of Supervisors to do that also. Isn't that called civic engagement? Whether they do it or not.
Yeah. How about the EPA? Don't they have a water quality division, wastewater quality division that ADEQ is supposed to be following the rules of?
Well, remember ADEQ is the state branch of EPA, essentially.
Yes.
Right.
So it would go through ADEQ first.
Mm-hmm.
So should it read the county's Human and Health Services Division? Not sure which.
Well, I mean, I think David Monahan's point was that the county's environmental quality division doesn't have the resources to do this. ADEQ might, and that would be the appropriate agency to conduct a regional study.
That's true, but who should request them, and should it be periodic?
Well,
that's a question for you guys. I mean, this could come out if it doesn't seem to be realistic.
No, I think it needs to stay there.
Yes, it should stay, yes. But again, there are a number of ways to make requests like that. And one of those is simply lobbying your county government to make such a request. And now ADEQ may come back and say, well, we don't have the money, go to the legislature. But
well, the thing of it is that, the way it's written is like, well, I don't need to do that. Somebody else should be doing that.
The way I look at it is just the opposite of that. It is that I should be one of the people requesting that. If I start a letter writing campaign, an email campaign, register as a lobbyist and go down to Phoenix and talk to the legislature, hey, whatever it takes.
Okay, so we'll just say should be requested by John Ruggles.
Hey, if you want to put that in there, you bet.
See, the way I read that, the way it says impacts of individual wastewater systems, that's up to the homeowner or the owner of the wastewater system to contact Arizona ADEQ.
And Jim, I thought of the same thing because, I'm not going to call them to come out and test my septic tank because I don't want to have to put any money into it.
Well,
right. And, that's just it. The way it's written there, I know Melissa added a few things, but it was actually written as if the homeowner or the owner of the system contact ADEQ. Because all of our septic systems are individually owned. It's not like the Wildcat wastewater treatment plant that's owned by the city. The city, ADEQ can just come in on their property and do a spot inspection. They don't have to tell them they're on their way. They just show up. And, but to come on an individual's property to inspect a septic system, they need permission to enter your property.
Well, and I do think that number 3 was getting at a regional study to understand the impacts of all the septic systems. So I just added these few words by either the community or the county to leave it somewhat open, but, kind of prompting ideas about who could initiate this.
Well, And the other thing, Melissa, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said regional in this. Regional implies that you're looking at a lot more than just one individual septic system.
Right.
You look at it in terms of, say, an entire development or an entire area as it expands and grows. What's the impact of all of those septic systems out there?
And it goes back to the goal. And again, it's a pretty simple goal. Wastewater systems protect and improve water quality. Well, one way to protect water quality is to ensure that there is not contamination from wastewater systems to the water supply. So this is but I'll leave it back to the committee.
I think what you got right there looks pretty good.
I agree.
Just out of curiosity, how deep is the water supply here? I forgot.
Well, I do recall Doney Park water saying it's 1,200 feet to the aquifer. It's pretty deep.
It varies. I think it's between 1,200 and 1,600.
Okay, it's fairly deep.
Yeah.
It's deep.
Depends on which well they're pumping out of.
Right.
So I just want to do a quick time check. It's 7:55, and we did get through 2 of the 3 sections. This is the end of the water resources and wastewater treatment section. Brian, what is your preference here?
Well, I think we need to move on to the schedule because yes, it is almost 8 o'clock and I'm sure folks are getting fatigued by now and we need to finish out our agenda without doing another.
Okay. So we were then, the next slide is to talk about the community open house and how we might move toward that, and then additional outreach planning. And I did have a couple of updates to give you about that. And so again, at the last meeting, you all had decided to not land on a specific open house date until this work is done with the goals and policies. Is that still the sentiment?
I support that idea.
I second that idea.
I third it.
Makes sense.
That's
Sounds
good.
like that's where we are. Again, ideas. I did have some conversations with our department and then also District 2 Supervisor's office about doing another blanket postcard mailer, although it would be a larger size and we would do this sooner. And it does seem like there's pretty good support for doing that again. Just wanted to put that out there, and we will, as we get closer to determining a date, we can then, design a postcard and send it out well in advance of an open house to try to make sure everybody gets notice of that. We'll still put together this idea of a self-guided driving tour. We can publicize this in addition to a postcard on the social media posts. We're still not anticipating meeting in person. Depends on how long we take to get through these. Who knows where we'll be at that time in terms of in-person meetings, but we're not anticipating that at this time. Any other thoughts or comments on getting to the stage?
Melissa, one thought I would have is that we're kind of all looking at this from our perspective as commissioners or as members of this commission. Maybe now is the right time for us to start putting together an action plan for the citizens that want to be involved. So that self-driving tour, documents they could be reviewing, things like that. For the folks, I'm super impressed with the number of the general public that have chimed in this evening and have been watching and participating, helping to put together a plan for them to prepare them for the public input is something that could be ongoing right now while we finish our work, so that when we all get together for the open houses, everybody is as best prepared as possible.
I have one suggestion, that when we send things out to them, we could ask them if they have any specific thing they want us to look at and consider and evaluate as perhaps one of their issues in their neighborhoods that we should observe?
Isn't that kind of what we did with the survey?
Well, I'm just thinking, looking at it and the guy's standing there with you, you know, he might want, I mean, when we send this out, we're going to be driving by. When we drive by, what should we look at? What should we notice? What should we see that you think is
Okay.
awful or good? I'm just saying it draws them in a bit more.
In defining the driving tour.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. When we come by your house, what do you want us to see? It's that darn neighbor with those mean dogs or whatever it is.
Well, this is Liz. The driving tour, I thought we were going to do it. I think Monica actually mentioned that the group, before they did it with a big group, did it within the committee themselves to see issues that we were talking about. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay.
No, I think we
Good,
should
good,
be.
good. That's say.
Yeah, I
Yes.
do. I definitely do.
Okay.
We could caravan like the realtors do when they have new listings, you know, just everybody follow each other in their own cars. And then we could get out and wear masks and, you know, talk to each other if need be, and or communicate by cell phone in the car and have a person that's a leader or something like that.
There actually are some apps now that you can use on your cell phone where basically they operate as a walkie-talkie, and many people can be all simultaneously using it.
Wow.
I think a key point is to keep it simple enough so that people can get the information without being handicapped by the technology.
That's
and
an
I'm
important
speaking
point.
for myself.
So are you all suggesting a couple of tours and one for the committee and then a separate one for community members?
Well, community members could alert us to areas that they would like us to view as a committee, because it could make decisions or help us make
That's
decisions.
my point, is let them tell us where to go.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, that like leads me to wonder about self-guided.
So yeah, and so the idea here, and we had done some just internally, we had done some work on this and it was kind of based on a tour that planning staff did now a while ago, you know, where we drove around, we had it mapped out to really try to get a sense of, one, how big the planning area is. So we really had a sense of the extent of what we were looking at. And then two, to, you know, get some up close and personal visuals of the different neighborhoods. So we kind of had it mapped out, and that was the idea behind this, along with stops at the activity centers. So, you know, we were envisioning this to be somewhat of a, you know, a suggested route, if you would, more or less, so that people, you know, could really get a sense without just going randomly here and there. It was intentionally mapped out to kind of show, you know, the variety and the diversity and the size of the whole Doney Park, Timberline, Fernwood planning area, because it was really interesting when we did that as staff. And that was what we had envisioned. Maybe what we can do is, if there are several of you interested in working on this separately, let's get together as a separate group and and hammer it out. How does that sound?
Or if you can't do that, Melissa, perhaps at the next meeting, we should have some time set aside to look at what you guys did.
Sure,
And
we can
maybe
absolutely do
provide
that.
input from us.
Yep, we have a lot prepared already,
content.
actually. Okay, we can do that.
My question, I think your idea there of a separate subcommittee is good, Melissa. I would ask the committee who is interested in being involved in helping you pull that, how shall I say, itinerary together.
Right, and we can work off of what we've already put together to show you. So just email me if you're interested. If not, we'll just present it next time.
Okay, so email
Okay.
Melissa
Yep.
if you're interested in working with her on the driving tour. Okay.
Okay, and then can we move on then to the next slide, which is just the schedule?
Yes.
Okay. So again, this is just to show that we are in the phase of working on the vision, goals, and policies. We're doing that now. We'll continue. We'll, host an open house once we get to that point, and ideally have a second open house following that to present the draft plan. So the draft plan work really needs to start now, where we're writing the text and really updating, rewriting, and writing the plan, 2001 plan, and bringing it now to our 2021 plan. And then in an optimistic schedule, we could possibly move toward public hearings in the summer. So if we keep moving forward, we could possibly get to that place then. Any comments on this?
Anybody have anything they want to share? This looks realistic to me.
It's fast because keep in mind the public hearings, we need a lot of lead time on that. And it goes to planning commission first, and then 2 months later it goes to the board of supervisors.
So I think this looks pretty optimistic, but I'd love to see it happen.
Let's keep our I'm gonna leave this up here like this so we can at least strive for it.
Well,
We have goals.
Could we add something in there about the self-guided tour?
Yeah, I mean, that would be, yeah, it would be here. Oops. In this phase, develop survey and host public open houses. So that would be in this phase, Bernice. We can add it in there.
Yeah, I think that would be good. I'm interested in going on the tour, but I can't commit to anything right now as far as planning it.
Well, okay. I mean, maybe you could do a test run for us.
Can I make a comment here? Go back to your previous screen, please, Melissa. Can we do, and I know people will probably not want to do this, but I know we have a lot of people in the public, and this is something that the committee needs to hash out. Can we do a special meeting with just all the committee members, like an hour-and-a-half meeting, and talk about all of these and kind of work out the details as to how we're going to do these in a special meeting with just committee members? And that way we might be able to get through it a lot quicker than in a regular meeting.
Do you mean to talk about the goals and policies, or specifically about
The
how to do?
self-guided tour, the virtual open houses, everything.
Okay.
Instead of doing it in a general meeting where we have the public with us, and let's all the committee members get together and go over this, so that the next time when this comes back up again and we have the general public with us, although we are the general public because we don't get paid to do this committee, but we can give them more information instead of us trying to figure it out with right now. Do a special meeting just on these subjects, and that way it's there in front of us as we go through the rest of our meetings.
Jim, no disrespect, but I would oppose that idea, because I believe in the transparency and openness of meetings is critical to this process. And I haven't seen the general public, in this case, delaying this process or a meeting. We are not required to accept public comment, and if we needed to schedule a meeting where in order to expedite things, we only addressed things on the agenda and didn't include public comment, I'd be okay with that. But excluding the public is not something I could support at all.
Right, but for us to get through for our September deadline, I'm just thinking that, you know, that's why I threw this out, you know, it's
Sure.
possibly have a meeting amongst committee members to hash out a few of these things.
Is it
How are we,
because,
how
Go
are
ahead.
we going to do this? How are we going to do that?
The public doesn't slow that down.
oh, but I think what he's saying, if we include it when we're doing these other things, like to do all the introductions at the beginning, he just wants to go in there and get a dirty nit and gritty, get the meeting over, boom. And don't do introductions, don't do
Yeah.
public comment. But maybe we can invite them.
No.
We're just going to say this is a dirty, down and dirty committee meeting. We're not going to have introductions. We're going to go right into it. And so if you want to join us, you're welcome, but we're just not going to do the formal hoopty-la at the beginning. Everyone's saying this is administration, this is public, this is us, this is booty, booty, booty. Introduce yourself, right? It takes so long.
I think we need
So
to
is
leave the
that what
booty
you're
out of
saying?
it. But
Yeah.
it took 17 minutes for us to do the introductions and things this morning or this afternoon. And I agree.
Oh, it did.
And I
Okay.
already texted Melissa that perhaps we're overdoing introductions, but my only point is I do not want in any way to
Right.
exclude the public.
Right. But I think he
And
just
it will-
want to maybe have a formal meeting. That's what maybe you're getting at. He was getting.
And if I could interject, one reason for the introductions is we don't have a sign-in sheet on these virtual meetings. And that's one
okay.
reason why it's hard for us to capture. And it's still a little bit, it's not 100% accurate. We do normally have sign-in sheets during meetings so we can
Okay.
make sure. So that's just one reason why we do that. But what I can offer here, kind of a, like as I was suggesting earlier, we can do, you know, at the staff level, we've got some outlines already for all of these items. And, you know, to kind of follow up on Jim's idea, as I suggested before, I can offer to meet with anyone who's really interested in, we can hash out these details and then bring them back to the bigger meeting. So we're not creating it during the meeting, but we'll present it to you at the meeting.
Melissa,
I like that idea.
I'd like to add one comment here to all of them I've heard so far. Since this is a committee, we are not constrained by the open meeting law. You could have a meeting as Jim Clifford has proposed. You don't necessarily have to accept public comment, and you could dispense with the initial introductions to save a little bit of time and cover more of what you need to cover in the meeting.
That's what I was suggesting, basically.
Yeah, it can be open to the public, but you do not necessarily have, you don't have to take public comment at a meeting like that. As I said, because you're not constrained by the open meeting law in terms of what you do. It's very much like a study session, because say at a study session for board or the P&Z commission, you don't necessarily take public comment unless those people on the staff and the commission or the board solicit that comment.
And Melissa, the other thing is we're not required to have everyone sign into anything since it's not a formal meeting.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
These meetings, the full committee meetings, we are trying to, you know, make these open to the public. So you're suggesting a second one outside of a regular committee meeting? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, like Rob said, it can be open to the public, of course, to observe. And if you want to, you could always say, here is an email. You can send your comments to Melissa Shaw based on what you heard during the study session that the committee had on these subjects.
So are we talking about a meeting other than our regular monthly meeting to accomplish this?
That's what I am suggesting.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
So our regular monthly meetings would still be open to the public and public comment.
Right.
Yes. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah,
okay. Thank you.
I think that everything should be transparent.
This second meeting would be a meeting that would
a work
it's a work session basically, public can be there, but basically we're not going to introduce anybody. The committee is just going to work on these bullet points. We're not going to bring anything else that is on our regular agenda. We're just going to work on these bullet points.
Sums it up pretty well, I'd say.
Eloquent.
It's just a suggestion so that we can meet our goals.
I think that's a good suggestion, Jim, and I would support it.
Yep, I would support it also.
Yeah, same here.
Okay.
Do we want to set a date for that?
Do we want to do a Thursday?
Thursdays are good for me.
Thursday evening?
Thursdays work good for me.
Hey, anytime that I am not lobbying ADEQ about water.
Okay, so the next Thursday prior to March 11th, which is the next meeting, the 18th, the 25th, or the 4th.
I would appreciate not using the 4th if that works.
Okay,
So
the 18th is next week, or the 25th is 2 weeks.
now on the 25th, I have down that we had a tentative virtual open house, which is not going to happen.
That's not going to happen.
So
Delete
is it
that,
25th,
yeah.
since it's already on our calendars? Is that a good time?
24th, which is that Wednesday, we have a planning and zoning commission meeting. So do we want to do back-to-back late meetings?
This one, it seems like it wouldn't take as long though as these meetings now.
I don't think it will.
If we
But-
could even say an hour and a half rather than 3 hours.
Right.
I'll tell you.
Yeah, but like I'm saying, the 24th, which is a Wednesday, we have a planning and zoning commission meeting that Melissa, John Ruggles, and myself are part of. And sometimes they can go late in the night. So then we're back on Thursday at 5 for another hour and a half or 2 hour meeting, whichever it takes.
What about March 4th?
Brian, or rather Rob, suggested not that day.
Okay.
I have a conflict, but that shouldn't exclude that from the date. If that works better
No,
for everybody else, that's fine.
no, that's fine, Rob. You're a committee member. You're a co-chair. We want you to be there.
Can we go with the 25th and we'll keep it short?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Sure,
and
why
we'll have
not?
we'll have things prepared for you to look at.
Yeah, I'm a glutton for punishment, so if we're there till midnight the day before,
Hey, this is
then
punishment? I thought this was fun.
I don't think we don't have a solar power plant coming up, do we?
No.
No, we don't.
We can do it.
Hey, Melissa, it was fun when we had pizza.
Oh, Evelyn, you know, I
need the dog.
I wonder what happened to him. I think I lost him somewhere. I'll get him back, okay?
He ate all the pizza.
Oh, I know. Okay. Well,
So
should
does
we?
that wrap things up for tonight?
Well, let's go to public comment real quick, okay? Because we need
Yes.
to finish this up.
I'm sorry, was that February 25th or March 25th?
February.
February.
I'll send you an
25th.
invite.
And we're talking 5 o'clock, correct?
Yes, we could do it earlier if you want.
No.
Okay. For P3, it's our public participation planning meeting. Just think of it as P3. Okay, next meeting, March 11th. We'll continue with this, continue to plan for the open house. And Brian, public comments, final thoughts?
Yes, let me ask for anybody from the public to share very quickly if they have any insight or comment.
Yes, I have a comment tonight. This is Russell Weedman. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead, Russell.
Yeah, I'm just going to go back for a moment to the very beginning of the meeting. And there were a lot of people from the public that did sign into this meeting. And basically, I think the reason they did that is they were very concerned. They were afraid. And probably we're showing a bit of mistrust from what they've seen with our county governments over the years. You know, if you go back to a quick look at the survey, one of the questions, well, there were a lot of questions, but would you be in favor of adjacent forest land used for development? And that was the main reason a lot of the people, from what I heard, signed up to attend this meeting tonight, to let you know that they are definitely not in favor of that. Do people want higher density housing? Do we need more rural activity centers? Is there a need for additional commercially zoned property? Every one of those questions in the survey was overwhelmingly answered no by the public, by the community, the people that live in this community, that pay the property taxes. Overwhelmingly no. And I think we got to see a little bit of how concerned people are about that tonight, when all those people wanted to attend this meeting. And I think you took a little of the fear away from them when you said there apparently weren't any plans to do something like that. But I think I think that's where this vision statement, could help some of these people not be so afraid that something like that is going to happen around their home. There's a lot of properties in this area that are bordered by Forest Service, different sizes of Forest Service. Some, thousands of acres, other border up against 50 acres or 100 acres, and people are really concerned about that. So that was quite interesting tonight to see that many people sign into this meeting, because they were worried about that. And I don't know how all of them they had some wrong information, I think. And I did send you I think that flyer, Melissa, at the beginning, after last month's meeting. That flyer was put up on mailboxes that was warning people that there was going to be some type of a development, a subdivision on forest land.
Right, and let me clarify for the committee, that was someone had taken our agenda, right, and posted it on mailbox cluster with a note handwritten along the bottom about, potential Forest Service development, just to clarify what that was.
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, I was a bit surprised, because I even got an email from someone. I tried to respond to them, but they didn't get back to me. But it was about what they were saying tonight, that there was somebody was talking about developing this patch of forest land, and they had no faith in the county, or the county governments to not let that happen. It's kind of a shame, really. And I
Russell,
feel like, yes.
Quick question, Russell. Would you agree that those fears were put aside tonight, that we addressed those adequately, and that those people are probably resting a little easier?
Yes, I think they were.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that.
But will that last? I would say absolutely not. And the reason is because of things that, a lot of those people had been in the area for, quite a few years, and things that they've seen over the years happened with high density. I'll call them high density. They're not multi-story, but some of these subdivisions that have gone in the last 30 years, or 40 years, they seem quite high density compared to
Russell?
we talk, yes.
I need to cut in because we do have a comment period of time, and what I'm hearing you say is that you're concerned about continued development that could impede upon other people's properties. And I believe the committee is concerned about that as well. And so I want to thank you for your comments, and sorry to cut you off, but I do need to ask for other folks.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I can talk. So anyway, you got the picture, and thank you for the comment period that the public has.
All right, Russell, take care.
Yes.
Take care, Russ. Thank you again. You
Yeah.
always have good comments, Russell, always.
Thank
Any
you.
other,
Keep coming
any-
back.
Yeah, I
any
will.
other public people that have comments? Okay, let me go to the committee. Any committee, do we have somebody from the public wanting to comment?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm new to Doney Park,
Okay,
and I actually live off of Antelope and Stardust. And I chimed in late because I got out of work late. My question is, Antelope, who takes care of this street? I understand, it's private and all that, but there are a ton of potholes over here. Is there somebody that takes care of it, or residents take care of it, or how does that work?
let me chime in here. If it's a private road, then the residents on the road are responsible for maintaining that road. The county will not take that road unless it's brought up to county standards and then adopted by the county.
Okay, so basically the potholes, us residents got to do ourselves that live off that street. Okay, that's all. That was my only comment.
All right, thank you, sir. Matt and Danny, I see you have a question or a comment.
Yeah, my particular area of concern is like in basic terms, I'm trying to create a buffer zone around the Fernwood neighborhood to keep the OHV usage out of right outside the neighborhood so people can walk dogs and things like that without being endangered by the vehicles. Is that something that should be concerned? Should I be bringing that up with you guys, or should I be addressing that with Forest Service? Because these issues are really talking about things that are going on Forest Service land, but it's also about how residents that live here are using that. I just don't know exactly where those lines of responsibility fall. Just asking if somebody can advise me on this.
Okay, I'll give you my quick opinion and then ask Melissa to chime in. But basically, the OHVs, if they're on the Forest Service property, that's a problem that you have to address with the Forest Service. Now, you could create a community group and then ask the Forest Service to meet with you or to have a Zoom meeting so you could share your concerns. Melissa, do you have anything else you want to add?
I think that's a good summary, but Brian is right. Enforcement of the use of the Forest Service is obviously up to the Forest Service personnel. Getting to the Forest Service, when OHVs are on county roads, for instance, then that is a matter of the sheriff's office enforcement. So there are some options there. It is a difficult issue, and this committee, like I said earlier at the beginning of the meeting, has discussed this in different ways to communicate
it does
with.
have a definite impact on the community, on the neighborhood.
It sure does. It sure does, and you're exactly right. That, and committee members, please chime in if you like. But that's one of the topics and one of the issues that has been raised early on in this planning process, and it's a bit of a multi-pronged approach on how to deal with it. There's really not one direct agency that is going to be able to address it, and a lot of it has to do with the increase in recreation use that we've seen since the pandemic started. But so contact the Forest Service if there are users on the public roads, and that's a sheriff's office call to make. And then, there are some other strategies that we've come up with in the plan for how to possibly address this as a community.
There are in the neighborhood watch meetings a lot of conversation about OHV vehicles behind neighborhoods and things like that. So you could contact John Paxton at the Sheriff's Department, and he can tell you when your neighborhood watch meeting is, and it's on Zoom. Generally, they're once a month.
And John Paxton he works with the sheriff's office, so it's hosted
Right,
by the sheriff's office.
Paxton, John Paxton.
Okay, thank you for your time.
You bet. You're welcome. Let me move to committee members. I think we're done with public comment. Was there anybody else from the public? Okay, let's move to committee members, concluding comments.
Been here long enough. Time to go home.
Amen.
Oops.
That's okay.
Okay.
One thing for the general public, other than the committee members and the committee folks also, if you're concerned and you get this information that there is a development or something that's going to be going on in the area, contact the County Planning and Zoning Commission. Get hooked up with the county, listen to a Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. You'll get information as to what is out there, what we're approving. Melissa and Jess, who is also here tonight, are planning people with the county who work in the planning and zoning development area, and get involved. They say that we hear it all the time. Well, the county's doing this, the county's doing that. If you get engaged with the county, you'll actually realize what is actually going on in the county, and you're not going to hear all the rumors. That's the only thing I can say, is just get involved. And same thing with the HOV people. Get involved. Be proactive, not reactive. If you're proactive, you take care of stuff. If you're reactive, it's a real hard road to go on. So if you're a little bit more proactive, I think it's going to be a lot better for you.
Thank you, Jim. Anybody else from the committee? All right, let me come back to Melissa. I will mention that our next meeting then is on February 25th at 5 o'clock for the committee itself to plan the events that are upcoming. Otherwise, our next full committee meeting with the public is March 11th.
Perfect.
Anything else, Melissa?
No, just thank you everybody for your patience and for sticking it out tonight. We didn't even take a break. So with that, and I got a message that they're going to reboot my computer in a few minutes. So we should say goodnight.
Okay.
Good night. Excellent meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah.
guys. You all are rock stars. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, you're our
Good night,
drummer,
everybody.
so thanks.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Good night. I'll
Bye.
find the pizza dog next time, Evelyn. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Night,
Thank you very
everyone.
much.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks to all of you who joined in. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Good
Take care.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
I'll end it now. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome.